Chapter 939. Yes, Lu Gang. Although your constitution isn't good, I think highly of you. This time you will stay and set up a perfect East faction. If you can ensure that you can escape safely next time, I will bring you out. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Yes, your majesty. Don't worry. I won't disappoint your majesty. Lu Gang promised. Yes, the empress won't be going with me this time. If you encounter anything big, you can report it to the empress. Yin Chuan said. Yes. Lu Gang nodded. Go. Yin Chuan said. Lu Gang left, and He Guang, Yifeng, Jin Dayu, Lu Jin, and Bai Ditian entered the study together. The five of them knew something was up. Bai Ditian, your tiger demons will have to work harder this time and listen to ZZ and Meng Wenruo's orders. This is to prevent any mutiny in Dezhun while we are away. Yin Chuan said carefully. Don't worry. Bai Ditian nodded. He Guang, go back and tell Tan Lang not to cause any trouble during this period. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Don't worry, your majesty. He Guang said with a hint of excitement. Looking at the five of them, Yin Chuan nodded and said, this time we will be dreaming of Tianji. Prepare well. After I settle everything in 10 days we will set off. Yes. The five of them replied. Yin Jing in a forbidden area in the palace. Tiger demons were guarding the area. No one was allowed to come close. In the sky above this forbidden area, a dark cloud constantly flashed with lightning. Under the dark clouds were naturally Yin Chuan and ZZ. The two of them leaned on a roof and looked at the scenery around Yenjing. I won't be able to see you for many years again. ZZ sighed. I'll just lie here. You can see me every day. I just can't say it. Yin Chuan comforted ZZ. A smile blossomed on ZZ's face as she said, I'm already very happy to be by your side. Don't worry, with me around, no one will disturb you. Kissing ZZ's forehead, Yin Chuan whispered in ZZ's ear, actually next time when I come back we might be able to. ZZ was stunned at first, then her face turned red. She punched Yin Chuan twice and said, I don't want to. Yin Chuan laughed. Meow. A discordant voice jumped over. Yin Chuan, where are you going? Why aren't you taking me with you? Meow said in a displeased tone. If you go with me, who will accompany ZZ? Your mission is the most important. I have a large number of spirit stones waiting for you to eat. Yin Chuan said with a smile. A large number of spirit stones? Meow's eyes lit up. Meow, all right, for the sake of the spirit stones, I'll accompany Sister ZZ. Meow immediately smiled. ZZ smiled faintly. By the way, they're already here, Meow said. Yin Chuan looked at ZZ and both of them stood up at the same time. They flew down from the roof. Below, He Guang, Yifeng, Jin Dayu, Lu Jin, and Bai Ditian stood together. Xianying Palace? Yifeng looked at the palace in front of him. He saw Yin Chuan and ZZ land. Greetings, your majesty. Greetings, your majesty. Everyone shouted. Yin Chuan nodded. ZZ smiled faintly. Dream of heaven's secrets. Your majesty, are we going to do the same as Meng Wenruo? Jin Dayu asked curiously. After all, Jin Dayu had witnessed the strangeness of Dream of Heaven's secrets last time. Yin Chuan shook his head. No, it's different this time. The sealed world is too small. Let's soul travel, together. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Soul travel? Your majesty, our souls will enter the immortal realm? He Guang said in surprise. That's right. Let's go to Xianying Palace. Yin Chuan nodded. Chapter 940. Xianying Palace. When Yin Chuan led the group into the palace, Feng Yinyang was already waiting for them. Inside the palace there were 7 coffins in total. 1 main coffin and 6 other coffins placed side by side. The hall was filled with raging yin energy. Your majesty, your subject's feng shui formation has simulated the heavenly tribulation acupoint. The heavenly tribulation acupoint is filled with yin energy. It is inappropriate for it to fall into the palace. Thus, your subject built this Xianying Palace with the dragon veins from all directions to guard the yin energy. Thus, this palace is named Xianying Palace. Feng Yinyang explained. Xianying Palace? Yin Chuan furrowed his brows and fell into deep thought. Your majesty, is there something wrong with this name? Feng Yinyang asked doubtfully. Yin Chuan came back to his senses and shook his head. No, I just felt that the name sounded familiar. Perhaps I was overthinking. Xianying Palace, not bad. Yin Chuan looked at the group. In a moment our souls will enter the immortal realm. I will remind you one by one in the immortal realm. But do you know what to do next? Your majesty, please guide us. The group looked at Yin Chuan. After your soul enters the celestial realm, your soul won't stay in the celestial realm for long. At the same time, you don't have to worry about your future because once the time is up, or if I summon your souls, you will all return. In this limited time, you must be free from all restrictions and restrictions. Do not be bound by any rules. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Then what should we do? Huo Guang was puzzled. Be a devil for all ages. Yin Chuan's eyes darkened. Devil? Huo Guang's expression froze. Remember one word. Yin Chuan said solemnly. The group looked at Yin Chuan. Kill. Yin Chuan said with a serious expression. Yes. Everyone replied. Yin Chuan lay in the main coffin while Huo Guang, Yi Feng, Jin Diu, Lu Jin, Bai Ditian, and Feng Yinyang lay in the other 6 coffins. He placed a black jade talisman on his forehead. Yin Chuan looked at Zizi and Miao and said, "Let's go." Yes. Zizi replied with a gentle look in her eyes. Then a huge black banner at the side suddenly shook. Oh. Inside the main hall, black smoke suddenly swirled around and a chilly wind blew. Huo Guang and the others gradually fell into a deep sleep. Whoosh! The black banner swayed again. Great soul go! Following Yin Chuan's shout, the souls of the 7 people rushed out and split into 200, which meant that there were 1,400 souls. They shot up into the sky. In the blink of an eye they disappeared without a trace. Dream of heaven's secrets. Yin Chuan led the 6 people and rushed to the immortal world. Yin Chuan and the others entered the dream of heaven's secrets. The East Divine Continent was in an uproar at this moment. The world was huge, so it took a long time for news to spread to the various large sections. There were still 16 middle-level sects in the East Divine Continent. These 16 middle-level sects had all received news from the Great Jin Empire. In the main hall of a middle-level sect, there were 10 cultivators sitting in the main hall. The 10 cultivators' faces were gloomy as they looked at the blue-robed cultivator in the lead. Sect Master, this is impossible. The Great Jin Empire? Isn't this growth rate too terrifying? One of the cultivators said with an ugly expression. Sect Master, when the Great Jin Empire destroyed the Great Winged Heaven School, you went to help. Is that Yin Chuan really so powerful? Another cultivator frowned. The sect master looked bitter. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Yin Chuan, who was in the immortal realm back then, actually destroyed 7 middle-level sects. Chapter 941. There must be something we don't know. Continue to investigate. I want information on all the officials in the Dajin Empire. Also, where has Yin Chuan been all these years? What has he been doing? The sect leader clenched his fists. Sect leader, the Dajin Empire controls 1,100 cities. It's already the number 1 in the East Divine Continent. If we do this, won't we anger Yin Chuan? A cultivator said with a complicated expression. The sect leader's expression also turned ugly. Anger? Secretly collect information. Yes. Also, an immortal has appeared in the Julu Academy. Send disciples to investigate. Also, the Great Jiao Holy Ground is filled with evil energy. Send people to investigate as well. The sect leader said. Yes. Everyone replied. The same scene occurred in the various middle-tier sections. Jingyu ascended. After ascending, the East Divine Continent instantly became a tripartite balance of power. The Dajin Empire had the first territory. The Great Jiao Holy Ground was the only upper-tier sect. Julu Academy had an immortal. Whether they admitted it or not, at this moment, the 3 major powers of the East Divine Continent were determined. As for the remaining 15 middle-tier sects, they were interspersed between the 3 major powers. Although they were also middle-tier sects individually, they were far inferior to the 3 major powers. The originally peaceful world suddenly seemed like a storm was coming. Julu Academy. At the entrance of the radiant world, Dongfang Jingpai's face was dejected. Heavens, old Meng, how many years has it been? Why do you still want me to cultivate Confucianism? I want to go out. Dongfang Jingpai lamented. A cold snort came from behind Dongfang Jingpai. Dongfang Jingpai's face stiffened. He immediately turned his head and looked at the gloomy Meng Lingtian. Teacher, a day apart really feels like 3 years. Teacher, you don't know, but under your guidance I feel like I've grown a lot. I'm so touched that I can't even express it in words. Teacher, please accept my sincere worship. Dongfang Jingpai instantly revealed a fawning expression. Seeing Dongfang Jingpai's expression, Meng Lingtian's face twitched. What kind of person is Senior Dongfang Bubi? How can he have a descendant like you? Meng Lingtian's face was filled with disappointment. Teacher, you flatter me. Student's skin is thin. Dongfang Jingpai's skin was extremely thick. Meng Ling Tian. Since you don't want to stay, that's good. I have something for you to do. Meng Ling Tian said. What is it? Dongfang Jingpai's eyes lit up. Find Sima Yin Tian and tell him that he wants to know who his ancestor is. Tell him to come back immediately. Your mission is to bring him back to Julu Academy. Meng Ling Tian said. Looking for Sima Yin Tian? Dongfang Jingpai was extremely fat. When he saw that he could leave this cage, he was so excited that all the fat on his body started to tremble. Teacher, I'll definitely complete the mission you've given me. However, once I leave, I don't know when I'll be able to see you again. I can't bear to part with you. Dongfang Jingpai pretended to wipe his eyes. If you can't bear to part with me, then let Meng Rongrong go. Meng Ling Tian laughed. Dongfang Jingpai's face turned solemn. Teacher, how can we do that? Meng Rongrong was a girl. How could she run around the world? How dangerous was that? Although the mission is difficult, I'll definitely complete it. Teacher, I'll leave early and return early. Whoosh! Dongfang Jingpai immediately disappeared. Seeing that Dongfang Jingpai was nowhere to be seen, Meng Ling Tian laughed bitterly. It was hard to understand how Dongfang Bubi could have such an outstanding descendant. Meng Rongrong on the other hand remained calm. Rongrong. Meng Ling Tian called out. Yes, great-grandfather. Meng Rongrong looked at Meng Ling Tian. Your skills in the Tao of the Guqin are truly astounding. I've received permission to teach you the 8 notes of the Sky Demon. Are you willing to learn it? Meng Ling Tian asked. 8 notes of the Sky Demon? Meng Rongrong frowned. The 8 notes of the Sky Demon. Even I can only learn up to the 3rd note. That's because it requires one to sever all emotions in order to reach the other shore. I can't do that. You're the most skilled person I've ever met in the Tao of the Guqin. Are you willing to learn it? Meng Ling Tian said seriously. Sever all emotions? Meng Rongrong frowned. At this moment, Meng Rongrong didn't know why, but that barbaric figure suddenly appeared in her mind. Think about it. Once you've made up your mind, come and find me. Meng Ling Tian said. Yes, great-grandfather. Meng Rongrong nodded. West Divine Continent. Kong Mok led more than 60 experts back on horseback. Along the way the experts were all silent. They were feeling terrible, especially Kong Mok. When he'd first gone to the East Divine Continent, Kong Mok had been extremely ambitious. He'd even felt that it wouldn't be impossible for his team to destroy Jingming City. But the battle in the East Divine Continent had caused Kong Mok's ambitions to be thwarted again and again. Challenging Jingming? Courting death. Luckily, King Yu of the Southern Divine Continent had tested the waters for everyone. Jingming's strength had already exceeded everyone's expectations. Then, he had subdued Yao Qianshang and lured out the strongest person in the world 30,000 years ago, Ju. 4 Upper Void Realm experts had died. Mohina Dojin had killed another 2 Upper Void Realm experts. Yen Chuan had killed another 3 Upper Void Realm experts. Finally, Meng Ling Tian had killed another 2 Upper Void Realm experts. No one would be able to understand the hardships of this journey. No one would be able to understand the grievances he had suffered along the way. Challenging one and kicking an iron plate. Challenging one and kicking an iron plate. Challenging one and kicking an iron plate all the way back, Kong Mok felt like dying. How could this be? Kong Mok asked himself along the way. Finally, Kong Mok arrived at the Great Buddha Empire. He had finally returned. At the entrance of the capital. Roar. Kong Mok let out a loud roar. Your Majesty is back. Your Majesty, bad news, Your Majesty. Before Kong Mok could finish venting, a group of officials ran over, their faces filled with grief and anger. Kong Mok suddenly had a bad feeling. What happened? Kong Mok asked in a low voice. Your Majesty, some time ago, a woman came. She called herself the Empress. One of the officials shouted. Empress? Yes, she called herself the Empress. Then she found the habitat of the Ice Phoenix clan and slaughtered all the Ice Phoenix clan. Not one was left alive, not one was left alive. The official said in horror. What? The Ice Phoenix clan that submitted to me were all slaughtered? The Ice Phoenix, he is an Upper Void Realm expert. Kong Mok exclaimed in shock. Yes, he is an Upper Void Realm expert. However, that Empress is too powerful. The Ice Phoenix could not escape at all. He was killed by the Empress with a single slash. The corpse of the Ice Phoenix is still here. Your Majesty. The official Jiaohu said. Another Upper Void Realm expert? Another Upper Void Realm expert died. Ah, roar. Kong Mok roared in depression. Chapter 942. Book 6 Heroes Rise Together Chapter 1. Return After 50 Years. Great Jin Empire Yinjing. In the main hall of the Eastern Military Factory's headquarters, Lu Gang looked at a factory guard in front of him. Governor Yin Yinyun left Yinjing alone and headed west. Although he thought he could hide from everyone, he was still seen by a baihu. A guard reported respectfully. Yin Yinyun? Looks like Yen Qiuyu's son is still brooding over Yen Qiuyu's death and went to find Yen Wudi. Lu Gang said with a frown. Sir, should we capture him? The guard asked solemnly. Lu Gang frowned and pondered for a while. Not for the time being. We'll talk about it after I report to the Empress. Lu Gang shook his head. At the same time, Meng Wenrua also received the news. My lord, this Yen Yinyun clearly went to find Yen Wudi for revenge. Should we capture her? An official respectfully asked Meng Wenrua. Meng Wenrua frowned and pondered deeply. In the end, she took a deep breath and shook her head. No, let him go. Let him go? The official asked in surprise. First of all, you have no way to prove that he is definitely looking for Yen Wudi for revenge, so there is no reason to arrest him. Secondly, even if it is true, it is not our place to intervene. This is an internal matter of His Majesty's clan. Meng Wenrua said in a deep voice. Yes. The official could only helplessly reply. At the same time, several members of the Yen clan who were highly respected also arrived at the imperial palace to see ZZ. Empress, we've already restrained them, but we didn't expect Yen Yinyun to be so bold. It's better to capture him as soon as possible. An elder of the Yen clan said worriedly. ZZ shook her head and said, Everyone, there's no need to be nervous. His Majesty has already considered all of this. Let him go. Everyone was at a loss. 45 years later. Central Divine Continent. The Dugu family. Sword Mound. Yen Wudi held the heaven-mending sword in his hand as he battled the 9 experts. Countless Dugu family members were quietly watching from all directions. Shing, shing, shing. As soon as the heaven-mending sword appeared, huge sword lotuses bloomed in all directions. As soon as the sword lotuses appeared, endless sword lights shot towards the 9 experts to surround them. The swordsmanship of the 9 great experts was also extremely tyrannical. Complex swordsmanship was even more at the fingertips of these 9 people. The 9 experts' swordsmanship was excellent, but it was a pity that Yen Wudi's swordsmanship was stronger. Standing in the middle of the sword lotus, he was like a sharp sword that shot into the sky, causing others to cower in fear. Boom. The sword lotus exploded, and more than 3,000 sword lights sent the 9 experts flying. Shing. There was a long sword at each expert's throat. The long sword didn't move any closer. It merely stopped at the throats of the 9 experts, emitting a series of sword cries. He exhaled softly. Yen Wudi smiled faintly. Boom. The sword chi exploded, and the divine sword fell into the sword tomb. The 9 experts had all been defeated. The 9 experts looked at each other. Solitary sword pays respect to the patriarch. The Dugu 2 swords greets the patriarch. Solitary 9 swords greets the patriarch. The 9 experts bowed respectfully. At the same time, the Dugu family members all around also bowed respectfully. Greetings to the patriarch. Standing high in the sky, Yen Wudi's face revealed a trace of excitement. Uncle Chuan, I succeeded. I finally got everyone's recognition. Yen Wudi said to himself excitedly. Just as Yen Wudi was excited, a man who looked like a beggar had arrived outside the Dugu family. He was in a sorry state. Chapter 943. The man's hair was disheveled and his face was covered in blood and mud. His clothes were tattered and he looked extremely miserable. Dugu family? The man looked at the stone tablet and his eyes were filled with tears. Who are you? Suddenly, there was a loud shout and 2 disciples of the Dugu family stood in front of the beggar. I want to see Yen Wudi, I want to see Yen Wudi. He is my brother. After the beggar finished speaking, he fainted. Yen Wudi? Brother? Quickly report to the family head. One of the disciples said immediately. Yes. One of the disciples quickly rushed into the house while the other transferred a stream of true energy to the beggar. When the beggar woke up again, he was lying in an extremely spacious hall. The beggar opened his eyes and looked around. Suddenly he saw Yen Wudi standing at the side. Brother, brother? The beggar immediately cried. Yin, why are you here? What happened to your injuries? Yen Wudi frowned. Brother, father is dead. Father was forced to death by Yen Chuan. You have to avenge father. The beggar cried. What? Yen Wudi's face changed. Father was forced to death by Yen Chuan. Impossible. Yen Wudi exclaimed. It's true, brother. The beggar grieved. Yen Wudi's face was extremely ugly. How is it possible? Uncle Chuan forced father to death? How is it possible? Yin Yun, tell me clearly what's going on. Tell me clearly. Yen Wudi said impatiently. Yen Yun sorted out her thoughts and told Yen Wudi everything from beginning to end. Yen Wudi clenched his fists tightly and his face turned pale. Brother. Yen Yun cried. Yen Yun, you recuperate first. 10 days later, I will return to Yenjing with you. Yen Wudi's face was extremely gloomy. Yes. Yen Yun nodded. It was the 50th year since Yen Chuan brought his officials into the heavenly secret realm. Below a city. Yen Chuan led the 6 of them to look ahead. It was an incomparably majestic city. Its size was even larger and more majestic than the number 1 city in the sealed realm, the Great Zhou City. Unfortunately, all that was left of this city were dilapidated walls and dilapidated walls. He could vaguely see a broken stele erected not far away. On the stele were the words Qin capital. Qindu? Is this the capital of your previous life? Bai Ditian asked curiously. Everyone looked at it carefully. Previous life? Yen Chuan's previous life? After following Yen Chuan for so many years, they vaguely knew some things about Yen Chuan. Dezhen in the previous life? Was this the capital of Dezhen in his previous life, the capital of Qin? Yeah. Unfortunately, after I died, this place was reduced to a pile of ruins, and it was even burned by demonic flames. The energy of the world is extremely chaotic. Yen Chuan sighed lightly. As he spoke, Yen Chuan took a step forward and flew into the sky. Everywhere he passed, he looked down at his surroundings. The 6 of them followed closely behind. There was not a single person in the vast city. Everything looked bleak. Gradually, the 7 of them flew into a dilapidated hall. Yen Chuan looked at the deformed corner and smiled bitterly. This was the place where his previous life's wife, Zhenro, died. Zhenxiong? Yen Chuan's eyes were cold. The 6 of them did not dare to interrupt. They quietly waited for Yen Chuan. Only when Yen Chuan calmed down did Yen Chuan take a step forward and fly out of the Qin capital to another place. It was in the mountains. The mountains were shrouded in fog, making it difficult to see what was inside. After flying for a while, Yen Chuan and the others landed on the peak of a mountain. Chapter 944. In front of them was a desert surrounded by mountains. However, the desert here was made of black sand. Yen Chuan narrowed his eyes. After all, this was the place where Yen Chuan's body from his past life was buried. It was not like this back then. How did it end up like this? 7 souls? 7 ghost cultivators? Ah! How dare ghost cultivators wander around the mortal realm? It just so happens that I'm in need of a few ghost puppets. I was worried that I couldn't find any high-level ghost cultivators. So, you've delivered yourselves to me? A voice suddenly rang out. Following that, a huge black screen shot into the sky from a nearby forest. A domineering aura pressed down on them. A cultivator who was 100 feet tall could be seen in the black screen. However, this cultivator was extremely ugly. His face was covered in pustules. At this moment he was charging toward them arrogantly. Yen Chuan did not move. Huo Guang suddenly took a step forward. Huo Guang flipped his hand and a blood-red spear appeared in his palm. The spear was brimming with a murderous aura. You have a death wish. Boom. He thrust the spear forward and a violent storm swept up in the surroundings. The storm was blood-red as though it contained an endless amount of murderous aura. Ah, how can this be? The 100 feet tall heretic exclaimed. A skull appeared in his palm to block the attack. Boom. The skull exploded, and the spear pierced the heretic's chest. How can this be? The heretic cried out in shock. However, at this moment the energy spear retracted and slashed down. Boom. The heretic crashed into the ground. A huge crater was formed in the ground. The 7 of them looked down at the heretic. The heretic, on the other hand, was completely dumbfounded. Is this a ghost cultivator? His chest was shattered and he was severely injured. The ghost cultivator could not fight back at all. The heretic knew that he had hit a wall this time. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. Seniors, I've offended you earlier. Please forgive me. The heretic said sorrowfully. I remember that there were 100 huge mountains here. How did it become a black desert? Yen Chuan asked in a low voice. That was a long time ago. Senior, you don't know? The evil cultivator was at a loss. Speak. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes, senior. There used to be nothing here, but one day, a swordsman came and split a mountain peak with a swing of his sword. At that time, a feng shui master appeared and tried to stop him, but the swordsman was too strong. He couldn't stop him at all. In the end, the feng shui master sacrificed his life to open the door to the netherworld. Unexpectedly, there was a huge spring below. The spring swallowed everything around it, and then the door to the netherworld closed, leaving behind a land of black sand. The heretic explained. Sufu? Zhenro's master, so he has always been guarding my tomb. Yan Chuan muttered to himself. Do you still remember who that sword cultivator is? Yan Chuan asked coldly. Oh, I remember that the feng shui master scolded him. His name is Jin Xiong. Yes, Jin Xiong. The evil practitioner recalled. Ha 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 ha. Yan Chuan laughed out loud. His voice was filled with coldness. Jin Xiong isn't even willing to let go of my corpse? Let's go. Yan Chuan shouted coldly. He turned around and led everyone away. The heretic was at a loss when he saw everyone leave just like that. We can't stay here any longer. It's too terrifying. We have to leave immediately. The heretic struggled into the forest. Yan Chuan and the others continued flying. Yan Chuan's face was gloomy and everyone else was silent. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Where are we going now, Your Majesty? Lu Jin asked. We're going back first. I heard Zizi calling for me. It seems that Yan Jing has reappeared. Jin Xiong, I will be back. When I return, it will be the day of your death. Yan Chuan said coldly. Yes, Your Majesty. Everyone replied. Let's go back. Yan Chuan waved his hand and everyone immediately disappeared. Chapter 945. Great Jin Dynasty Yanjing. Skyward Hall Square. On one side of the plaza, Yan Wudi returned with a strong momentum. Behind him were 20 disciples of the Dugu family. Each of them held a sword as they coldly looked at the skyward hall before them. Yan Wudi was the leader, and his eyes were filled with endless hostility. Yan Yenyun, on the other hand, was excited. Yan Wudi, the head of the Dugu family, the invincible Dugu. Along the way, Yan Yenyun had already understood how powerful her brother was. There was no need for Yan Wudi to make a move. A Dugu clan disciple behind him could kill the great fiends blocking his path with one sword strike. Yan Wudi looked at the skyward hall with a gloomy expression. At this moment, the officials of the Great Jin Dynasty were standing in the square of the skyward hall. Meng Wenrua and Lu Gang frowned as they watched, along with a group of Yan clan relatives. An old man from the Yan clan said, Yan Wudi, you cannot blame His Majesty for your father's death. That's right. If His Majesty wanted your father to die on purpose, why would he wait until he rebelled? Also, His Majesty didn't make things difficult for your younger brother and sister. He only stripped them of their titles and gave them to their descendants. His Majesty has already done his best. Another Yan clan elder said. Yan Wudi, be rational. It was your father who rebelled first. Your father rebelled. Rebelling is a capital offense. Your father brought this upon himself. Yan Wudi, let go of your prejudices. The Yan clan relatives kept trying to persuade him. However, Yan Wudi's eyes were red. He shook his head gently and said, But he is still my father. Brother? The group of Yan Wudi's younger brothers and sisters didn't know what to do. Their eyes were all red. He wanted to take revenge for Yan Qiuyu, but Yan Qiuyu had only herself to blame. It was indeed Yan Qiuyu's fault. Although Yan Qiuyu was his father, it was an indisputable fact. However, they couldn't just ignore it and pretend that nothing had happened. After all, that was their father. Tell Yan Chuan to come out and see me. Yan Wudi roared. As he roared, a storm of sword chi suddenly burst out in all directions of Yan Jin. At this moment, Yan Wudi also felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. On one side was Uncle Chuan, whom he admired the most, and on the other side was his biological father. Although it was his father's fault, he was still his father. What Yan Wudi had said before was different from the truth. At this point, Yan Wudi had also figured it out. However, even if he understood it, so what? In the end, Yan Chuan killed Yan Qiuyu. The Yan clan relatives at the side were also anxious. The Yan clan relatives were extremely happy that a powerful person like Yan Chuan had appeared in the Yan clan. Now that another powerful person had appeared, the Yan clan relatives were naturally excited. However, these two powerful people were now standing on opposite sides. This would be a great disaster for the entire Yan clan bloodline. There was no way to persuade him. Yan Wudi didn't listen at all. After all, that was his father. Everyone was anxious. At this moment in the Xianyang Palace, Zizi gently called out to Yan Chuan. The dream of heavenly secrets. Everyone else was only left with their bodies. However, the master of this technique, Yen Chuan, left a trace of consciousness that could connect to the soul outside. Whoosh! Suddenly, a gust of Yin wind blew in the main hall. In an instant, endless Yin Qi spewed out. Rumble. The entire Xianyang palace trembled violently as a powerful aura spread out. Off, off, off. Chapter 946. One by one, the souls rushed into Yen Chuan's body. Yen Chuan's soul was the first to return. In the blink of an eye, 200 souls entered his body. Bus. Yen Chuan opened his eyes. He's awake. Meow. Meow said excitedly. Zizi also revealed a happy smile. When Yen Chuan opened his eyes, he was slightly stunned. It was as though he was sorting out everything in his mind. 200 souls. That was 200 lives. At this moment, the 200 memories quickly merged and became a part of Yen Chuan. Phew. Yen Chuan exhaled softly. He slowly regained his senses and gently removed the black jade talisman. He was the first to walk out of the coffin and looked at the 6 people who were still sleeping. He grabbed the soul summoning banner. Soul return? With a soft shout, a chilly wind blew in the hall again. More than 1,000 souls quickly returned to Yen Chuan and entered his body. The other 6 people also opened their eyes in the blink of an eye. Guang, Lu Jin, Yifeng, Jin Dayu, Feng Yinyang, and Bai Ditian. Almost all of them were stunned as they integrated the 200 memories that did not belong to any order. After a while, the 6 of them finally regained their senses. After taking a deep breath, everyone looked at Yen Chuan at the same time. Thank you, Your Majesty. Everyone shouted. We've been in the heavenly secret realm for 50 years and 200 souls. It's equivalent to 10,000 years in the heavenly secret realm. Although it's not continuous, the increase in the power of our birth charts is still counted in 10,000 years. Moreover, the 200 lives are also precious treasures. Merge them well and transform them into strength as soon as possible, especially Guang, Lu Jin, and Yifeng. Strive to break through to the void realm. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Don't worry, Your Majesty. I'm confident. Guang, Yifeng, and Lu Jin said with a smile. 10,000 years? At that moment, Feng Yinyang, Bai Ditian, and Jin Dayu were filled with emotions. Cultivation? Compared to this, the various cultivation methods in the past were simply too weak. Feng Yinyang felt that as long as he could fully assimilate this experience, he would not be weaker than his master, Li Kanglin. In fact, Feng Yinyang felt as if he could connect with the stars. Bai Ditian also felt that his strength had increased. Even in the upper void realm, Bai Ditian was an extremely powerful existence. Jin Dayu sucked in a deep breath. In the past, he had been in seclusion in the Great Winged Heaven School, which was nothing compared to this. Was this the power of 10,000 years of birth chart? On the other side, Yen Chuan looked at Zizi. Meow, 10,000 years? Was it really that exaggerated? Meow. I want to go too, next time I want to go too. Meow cried out pitifully as she grabbed onto Yen Chuan's sleeve with her little paws. All right. Yen Chuan nodded affirmatively. Meow. Meow was finally satisfied. What happened? Yen Chuan asked. Yen Wudi is here. He's at the entrance of the skyward hall. Zizi said with a frown. He's here? What's supposed to be here has finally come. Yen Chuan took a deep breath and nodded. At the entrance of the skyward hall. Yen Wudi's eyes were bloodshot as he held his sword. Wudi, His Majesty is not in Yenjing. It's been 50 years. Ask around, everyone knows about it. You should go and burn incense at your father's grave first. A relative of the Yen clan persuaded. There's no need. If I can't see Yen Chuan, I won't have the face to see my father. Yen Wudi shook his head firmly. But, the relative of the Yen clan said with a complicated expression. His Majesty has arrived. In the distance, Lu Jin's voice suddenly sounded. Lu Jin's voice caused the officials to turn their heads in surprise. Chapter 947. Only a few officials in Xianyang Palace knew about Yen Chuan's dream of entering the heavenly secrets. The others thought that Yen Chuan had left the palace. Now that Yen Chuan suddenly appeared, everyone was at a loss. Yen Chuan, Jin Dayu, Yifeng, Zizi, and the others walked over. For a moment there were no more doubts. Greetings, Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. The officials bowed. Yen Chuan also walked to the entrance of the skyward palace under everyone's gaze. Lu Gang and Meng Wenrua looked at everyone curiously. They wanted to see what was different. Yen Chuan walked in front and everyone followed behind him. Step by step he walked up to Yen Wudi. Brother, it's him. It's Yen Chuan who forced father to death. Yen Yun shouted. Shut up. Yen Wudi shouted. Yen Yun looked at Yen Wudi in surprise and she forgot to speak. Seeing Yen Chuan, Yen Wudi's eyes flashed with a complicated hatred, and the heaven-mending sword in his hand trembled. Wudi, you're back. Yen Chuan said with a smile. Xing. He waved the heaven-mending sword and the tip of the sword pointed at Yen Chuan. How dare you? Guang, Lu Jin, Jin Dayu, and the others shouted in unison. Yen Chuan waved his hand lightly, stopping everyone's shouting. Wudi, you can't point your sword at His Majesty, a Yen clan relative shouted anxiously. Since Great Zhen was established there were rules and etiquette. Pointing a sword at His Majesty was tantamount to treason, and there was no turning back. This was not a question of forgiveness but the system of the country. The emperor was honorable and could not tolerate the slightest insult. Even if His Majesty forgave you, the civil officials' impeachment memorials could drown you. Seeing Yen Wudi raise his sword, the hearts of all the Yen clan members rose. They were worried for Yen Wudi. Yen Chuan smiled faintly and said, Back then in the Feng Shui formation of the Myriad Wonders Demonic Lotus, I once promised you that I would allow you to challenge me once. It seems like it's going to come true today. As soon as Yen Chuan opened his mouth, all the Yen clan members were overjoyed. With His Majesty's promise, they didn't have to worry about being impeached by the civil officials. You forced my father to his death? Yen Wudi's eyes flashed with pain. So, you want revenge? Yen Chuan smiled faintly. Yes, I want revenge. Yen Wudi's eyes turned red again. Yen Wudi understood that this matter could not be blamed on Yen Chuan, but as a son he had no choice but to seek justice from Yen Chuan for this groundless cause and effect. Although he didn't want to raise his sword against Yen Chuan, he had no choice but to do so. Then come. Let me see how much you've learned over the years. Yen Chuan nodded in satisfaction. Yen Chuan agreed to Yen Wudi's life and death battle? Your Majesty's body is priceless. You can't risk your life. Your Majesty, please reconsider. Immediately the officials cried out. However, Yen Chuan waved his hand and stopped the ministers from advising. Let's go. Yen Chuan stepped into the sky. He flew high into the sky. The Emperor's sword was left behind. Yen Chuan only held the Jade Emperor's sword in his hand. Buzz. The Jade Emperor's sword vibrated. Yen Chuan was ready for battle. Master. The Duga family members cried out. They were slightly worried. Everyone stay here. This is between me and Yen Chuan. Yen Wudi said in a low voice. Yes. The Duga family members answered. Whoosh. Yen Wudi also flew high into the sky. Standing in the sky the two of them looked at each other. Yen Wudi took a deep breath. In his mind he abandoned the worship for Yen Chuan and only remembered the hatred for Yen Chuan. The heavenly vein sword in his hand trembled slightly and an unstoppable aura gushed out. On the other side, Yen Chuan held the Jade Emperor's sword in his hand. He was not arrogant and was also waiting with rapt attention. Because Yen Chuan knew how terrifying Yen Wudi's legacy was. The uncle and nephew were about to fight. Chapter 948. A great battle between uncle and nephew was about to break out. Yen Wudi's eyes narrowed and he waved the heaven-mending sword in his hand. Boom. The entire world was filled with an endless storm of sword chi, covering the sky and the sun. For a moment, killing intent shot out in all directions, closing in on Yen Chuan. As soon as the sword chi storm appeared, many of the ministers of Great Zhen revealed looks of shock. Feng Yinyang's face darkened as he waved his hand. Oh. Oh. Who? Countless arrays were quickly formed around Yen Jin. Clouds rose from all directions, forming a giant array shield that enveloped Yen Jin to prevent the people from being affected. Boom. Endless sword chi madly pierced towards Yen Chuan. At the same time, Yen Wudi also suddenly made his move. As soon as he attacked, the heaven-mending sword turned into a huge sword aura and slashed at Yen Chuan's Shinting acupoint. Yen Chuan smiled faintly and pulled the Jade Emperor's sword up. Ding. The Jade Emperor's sword energy collided with the heaven-mending sword, and the heaven-mending sword was knocked back. Yen Chuan's surroundings abruptly erupted with boundless sword energy, forming a storm of sword energy. Yen Wudi's storm of sword energy spun clockwise towards Yen Chuan, while Yen Chuan's storm of sword energy spun counterclockwise towards the sword energy outside. Rumble. As the swords clashed, the sky was filled with the thunderous sounds of swords clashing. Yen Wudi's heaven-mending sword slashed down again. Ding 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 ding. The heaven-mending sword directly pierced through the two sword chi storms, and crazily slashed at Yen Chuan. His speed was extremely fast, faster and faster. Ding 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 ding. Soon, the trajectory of the heaven-mending sword could no longer be seen. One astral sword after another appeared, seemingly forming a river of swords. The river surged towards Yan Xuan. His speed was too fast. In an instant he sent out tens of thousands of sword lights. Yan Wudi's face became ferocious, and his sword became faster and faster. Similarly, Yan Xuan's sword was also astonishingly fast. The Jade Emperor's sword cleverly struck the heaven-mending sword each time. The two of them exchanged attacks. Their arms could no longer be seen clearly. They were too fast, so fast that it was as if they had merged into the void. There were also countless sword cultivators among the common people in Yanjin. However, when countless sword cultivators looked at the two people in the sky, all of them felt ashamed of their inferiority. Not to mention the strength, just the speed of the sword was shocking. Only the expressions of the Dugu family's disciples didn't change. That was because all of the Dugu family's disciples were capable of transforming their swords into rivers. Is that all? Yan Xuan asked in a deep voice. Yan Wudi's expression was ferocious. Suddenly Yan Wudi's figure blurred and then condensed again. The sword river in his hand remained unchanged as if nothing had changed. How could that be? Another Yan Wudi? A Yan clan's relative exclaimed. Originally, Yan Wudi was standing to the south of Yan Xuan. However, Yan Xuan's figure suddenly appeared to the north of Yan Wudi. Yan Wudi's expression turned serious. Suddenly he slashed Yan Xuan from behind Yan Xuan. It was as if there were two Yan Wudi attacking Yan Xuan from both sides. Boom. Yan Xuan seemed to have eyes on the back of his head. He suddenly stabbed his sword into the back. Ding 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 ding. The Yan Wudi from the north was the same as the one from the south. His sword was shockingly fast as it slashed towards Yan Xuan. However, Yan Xuan was still calm. He swung his sword again and again, continuously repelling the sword light in front of him and behind him. Has His Majesty's sword slowed down? Lu Gang frowned. No, His Majesty's sword is faster. It's just so fast that you can't see it. Huo Guang shook his head. Chapter 949. In the sky, two Yan Wudi fought against Yan Xuan, but Yan Xuan was still calm. Sword doppelganger? Not bad. Yan Xuan smiled slightly. Umph. Yan Wudi snorted coldly. Whoosh. Suddenly, one Yan Wudi appeared to the east and the west of Yan Xuan. Four Yan Wudi besieged Yan Xuan, slashing at Yan Xuan from all directions. At this moment, in everyone's eyes, Yan Xuan's sword became even slower. He slowly swung his sword to the south, repelling all the sword rivers in the south. He slowly swung his sword to the north, repelling all the sword rivers in the north. He slowly and unceasingly repelled Yan Wudi's endless attacks. What sword technique is this? Yan Wudi asked in surprise. Sword 22 of the 24 moves of sword. Yan Xuan said in a deep voice. Sword 22? Yan Wudi's face became more and more ruthless. Whoosh. More and more Yan Wudi appeared. In an instant, 9 Yan Wudi appeared in the storm of sword chi. They attacked Yan Xuan from 9 different directions at an extremely terrifying speed, slashing at him with sword after sword. At this moment, the disciples of the Dugu family also gradually became serious. That was because the disciples of the Dugu family were finally able to see that Yan Xuan's sword Dao was extremely frightening. Sword 23. Yan Xuan shouted softly. Boom. Yan Xuan swung his sword, and the Jade Emperor's sword left behind afterimages. These afterimages did not disappear, but slashed at the heaven-mending sword, and erupted with a force that suppressed the heaven-mending sword. Streaks of heaven-mending sword energy were counterattacked. For a moment, the battlefield between Yan Xuan and Yan Wudi seemed to have turned into a huge lotus. The lotus had 4 layers. The first layer was Yan Wudi's sword Chi Storm, the second layer was Yan Xuan's sword Chi Storm, the third layer was Endless Heaven-Mending Sword, and the fourth layer was Endless Jade Emperor's Sword. A huge sword lotus bloomed in the sky above Yan capital. Countless sword cultivators looked at the sword light that filled the sky. For a moment, a large number of sword cultivators seemed to have an epiphany as they felt the aura of the endless divine sword. Yan Wudi slashed again and again, and Yan Xuan easily dealt with it. Yan Wudi's face showed a trace of anxiety. Roar. The 9 Yan Wudi suddenly roared. Suddenly Yan Wudi's hair turned blood red, and an endless mist of blood surrounded him. Blood demon? Countless cultivators exclaimed in shock. The same as His Majesty? A courtier cried out. On the other hand, the Yan clan's relatives widened their eyes in shock. How can this be? Isn't the blood demon only His Majesty and his son have it? Yan Wudi has it too? Could it be the bloodline inheritance of the Yen clan? Suddenly, a Yen clan relative came to a realization. At the same time, the Yen clan relatives' hearts trembled. If Yen Wudi could do it, then they could do it too? In the sky, Yen Wudi turned into a blood demon and his body emitted an extremely evil aura. Ha ha, Yen Chuan die. Yen Wudi shouted excitedly. Whoosh! The sword light that Yen Wudi unleashed once again turned blood red. Furthermore, the power of each sword light was more than 10 times greater, and the speed was also more than 10 times faster. In an instant, the blood river rushed down from all directions, rushing towards Yen Chuan from 9 different directions. It added a glamorous glow to the peerless lotus. Yen Chuan waved his sword and suddenly became a little embarrassed. Yen Chuan didn't use any super skills or other means. He still fought sword against sword. 9 blood seas surged over, bringing with them the power to destroy the world, suppressing Yen Chuan to the point where he was momentarily flustered. Chapter 950. You're indeed born with a sword bone. Yen Chuan smiled excitedly. 24 swords. Yen Chuan shouted. Buzz. With Yen Chuan as the center, a sword chime spread in all directions. As soon as the sword chime was heard, the surrounding sword chi, sword aura and sword aura rose. Buzz. Buzz. The swords of countless sword cultivators around Yen Jin also vibrated, as if they were echoing the sound of Yen Chuan's Jade Emperor sword. Almost all the swords in the entire Yen Jin vibrated. Even the swords of the disciples of the Dugu family also vibrated. Impossible. The Emperor's sword's chime is enough to make all the swords bow to it. Only the old master can do that. How can Yen Chuan do it? A disciple of the Dugu family exclaimed. The disciples of the Dugu family also exclaimed. High up in the sky, the blooming sword lotus violently trembled at this moment. The first layer of sword chi collapsed with a bang. The second layer of Yen Chuan's sword chi also collapsed. 8 of the 9 sword rivers on the third layer suddenly vibrated and collapsed. Only one of them was still struggling. At the same time, the Jade Emperor sword also clashed with that one. Boom! The Jade Emperor sword and the Heaven Mending sword clashed, creating a storm in the sky. The clouds in a 10,000-mile radius were blown away. Yen Wudi's body was sent flying like a shooting star, crashing into a mountain peak in the distance. Boom! The mountain peak exploded with a loud bang. Yen Wudi's body fell into the broken mountain. Yen Chuan stepped forward. Family Master. The disciples of the Dugu family immediately rushed over. Whoosh! Bai Ditian, Jin Dayu and Hua Guang immediately stood in front of them. Get out of the way, the disciples of the Dugu family exclaimed. However, Bai Ditian, Jin Dayu and Hua Guang didn't give way at all. Rumble. Everyone started fighting again. In the ruins, Yen Chuan looked at Yen Wudi who was lying on the ground. Yen Wudi's blood-red hair had already disappeared as he withdrew his super divine ability. Looking at Yen Chuan, Yen Wudi's eyes were red, and sorrow was brewing in his eyes. Wudi, you're the most talented swordsman I've ever seen. Although you lost, it's only because of me. You're only at the lower void realm. Even if you use your super divine ability to push your strength to the middle void realm, you still can't compare to me in terms of experience. At the same level of swordsmanship, no one is your opponent. You even forced me to use the 24 moves of sword. You've inherited Dugu Buqian's legacy, so you'll have limitless potential in the future. Don't think about the past anymore. Looking at Yen Chuan, Yen Wudi felt a lump in his throat. It was like a child getting scolded by an adult for doing something wrong. Go and burn some incense for Yen Qiuyu. Yen Chuan sighed softly. Yen Chuan turned and walked away. However, Lu Jin flew over. Yen Wudi, this is the letter that Yen Qiuyu asked His Majesty to leave for you. His Majesty asked me to give it to you. Lu Jin handed over Yen Qiuyu's will before she died. Looking at the unopened letter, Yen Wudi felt a lump in his throat. At the same time, his eyes became moist. Father, I'm unfilial. Yen Wudi gently took Yen Qiuyu's will. Yen Qiuyu asked Yen Chuan to pass the letter to her son so that Yen Chuan could read the contents. She didn't want her son to take revenge. She hoped that Yen Chuan could give her son a path. How could Yen Chuan not understand? However, Yen Chuan still didn't open the letter. After taking the letter, Yen Wudi wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. Then he flew towards Yen Qiuyu's grave. Chapter 951. At Yen Qiuyu's grave. Yen Wudi brought his younger siblings to offer incense to Yen Qiuyu. A few members of the Yen clan had also arrived. Of course, there were only a few of them. 50 years had passed, and Yen Qiuyu's death had gradually faded from everyone's minds. Yen Wudi visited the grave and everyone tried to persuade him. The Dugu clan members stood not far away waiting. His younger siblings were still a little sad. Yen Wudi then took out the letter. The words "to my son Wudi" were written on it. With a heavy heart, Yen Wudi tore open the envelope and began to read. It was Yen Qiuyu's handwriting. Back then, Yen Qiuyu had given Yen Wudi a secret signal that she would put more emphasis on the fifth and last word of her letters. The letter in front of him was obviously written by Yen Qiuyu herself. My son, I have made a bad decision. I may die for it, but I have no regrets. If I fail, please do not resent Yen Chuan. It has nothing to do with him. If I die, I have only myself to blame. But in my heart, I really want to give it my all, even if my bones are crushed. This is my will as a father, and I will not regret it even if I die 10,000 times. I also understand that Yen Chuan treats the Yen clan extremely well, even better than I did back then. I can see that the Yen clan's glory is coming. It is in you and Yen Chuan. Do not resent Yen Chuan. The Yen clan can only achieve glory by concentrating. I am not as good as Yen Chuan. Although you are born with the sword bone, I can see that your achievements are at most that you can become the leader of a sect, no matter how strong it is. As an emperor you cannot be stronger than Yen Chuan. Take good care of your younger brother and sister. Father can't protect you anymore. I know that you will definitely resent Yen Chuan, but don't. If you want to resent someone, resent the 1000 Buddha Holy Ground and the Great Buddha Imperial Dynasty. I no longer had the ambition to become an emperor back then, but those bastards kept on egging me on. I understood that if I didn't agree I would have died then and there. My little ambition was forced to inflate by them. If I succeed, you won't be able to see this letter. If I die, it means that the 10,000 Buddha Holy Ground and the Great Buddha Imperial Dynasty forced me to do so. They are the ones who killed me. My son, I can see that Yen Chuan values you a lot. Do your best to assist Yen Chuan. Even if I die, it's enough that you're alive. That's enough. Looking at the letter, Yen Wudi's eyes teared up again. 1000 Buddha Holy Grounds, Great Buddha Empire. Yen Wudi roared in anger. Big brother, what did father say? The younger siblings asked in tears. Yen Wudi passed the letter to his brothers and sisters. Everyone looked at it. I know. Kongmok, Kongmok. A younger brother's eyes were filled with hatred. 7 days later, Lu Gang led Yen Wudi to the prison. Yen Wudi was wrapped in a black robe. His face couldn't be seen. In the prison, there was a huge prison cell. A group of black-robed men sat cross-legged. Although their cultivation was sealed, they had a certain foundation. They hadn't eaten or drunk for decades, but they were still alive. Lu Gang, don't you know that we are from the 1000 Buddha Holy Ground? We are loyal to Emperor Moku and have imprisoned us for more than 50 years. We can let bygones be bygones. If you don't let us go now, when Emperor Moku arrives, you will all die. A black-robed man said coldly. Marquis Yen, this is the group. His Majesty said that you can deal with them. Lu Gang said solemnly. Chapter 952. After saying that, Lu Gang left the heavenly prison, leaving Yen Wudi alone. Marquis Yen? Yen Qiuyu? You're not dead yet? A black-robed man asked in surprise. How's that possible? Yen Qiuyu, quickly take us away. I'll fulfill my promise to you in the future. As long as you find Emperor Moku, he'll give you everything. Yen Qiuyu, do you still remember the taste of the bone-melting poison powder? It's only 100 years. You should remember that once 100 years is up, you'll once again experience the feeling of begging for death. Quickly take us out. Everyone shouted. Yen Wudi held the hilt of the heaven-mending sword in his hand. His entire body seemed to be trembling. A wave of killing intent filled the heavenly prison. The harvest of 10,000 years. Everyone was constantly absorbing and fusing these countless memories and comprehensions. At the same time, spirit stones were madly provided to everyone. In a volcano near Yenjing, Jin Dayu sat cross-legged in the depths of the magma with a huge bell in front of him. Clang. The huge bell trembled slightly, and the magma in the entire volcano boiled. What a powerful force. The power of my birth charts has increased by a lot this time. Mohina Dojin? If it's still the Mohina Dojin I fought back then, I can crush you with one hand now. Jin Dayu said excitedly. In front of him, the patterns on the huge bell became clearer. The Celestial Gate? Back then, when the Celestial Gate opened, even a saint would be killed. Unfortunately, you're far inferior to the Celestial Gate. You're not the only Celestial Gate. However, one day I'll let you reach the height of the Celestial Gate. You're the first Celestial Gate. I named you the Divine Emperor Bell in the name of my ancestor, Jin Dayu said solemnly. Clang. The huge bell trembled violently, and the entire sea of magma seemed to be churning. Outside Yanjing in the east there was an inland sea. Countless cultivators had been moved away from all directions. On the shore of the sea, Yen Chuan stood on a reef with his mouth open to the sky. In the sky, rolling tribulation clouds churned endlessly. In the tribulation clouds, lightning like dragons were constantly churning. However, at this moment, the churning dragons seemed to have a look of fear on their faces. A huge force in Yen Chuan's mouth was crazily pulling the tribulation clouds in the sky. Not far away stood Purplish and Meow Meow. Meow, he's going to devour the tribulation clouds again. Yen Chuan had reached the upper void stage so quickly? What a freak. Meow Meow exclaimed. Zizi smiled and said, aren't you the same? Don't go transcend the tribulation, many people will be deceived by you. Meow, I'm gifted. How can I be the same as Yen Chuan? Meow Meow cried. 69 heavenly tribulations, Yen Chuan has also ascended to the emptiness realm. Zizi's eyes flashed with a hint of happiness. Rumble. Layers of tribulation clouds were quickly swallowed by Yen Chuan. Within the 6 in 9 heavenly tribulation, the countless lightning dragons that were originally there were now helplessly swallowed into Yen Chuan's stomach. Rumble. The tribulation clouds were completely absorbed by Yen Chuan. The sky was cloudless in an instant, as if the tribulation didn't happen at all. Meow, let's go. Meow shouted. Wait. Purple shook its head. In the distance, Yen Chuan sat cross-legged. He turned his hand and a large number of spiritual stones suddenly appeared around him. Rumble. In the spiritual stones, rolling energy quickly flowed into Yen Chuan's body. Yen Chuan's cultivation was still skyrocketing. Whoosh. Chapter 953. With a gentle breeze, a large number of spirit stones that had their heaven and earth origin energy sucked away were reduced to dust and scattered with the wind. Meow. Meow. My spirit stones. What a waste. What a wastrel. Meow cried out in pity. Zizi smiled and rubbed Meow's head. After 10 spirit stone mountains were extracted, Yen Chuan finally stopped. 3rd level upper void stage. Yen Chuan slowly opened his eyes and looked at the vast sea in front of him. He exhaled softly. Yen Chuan could continue to rise to the next level, but Yen Chuan did not. It was enough for him to reach the 3rd level of the upper void stage. The remaining birth chart power would have to be used to strengthen his current cultivation base. Yen Chuan did not get up. Instead, he looked at the thundercloud in the sky above his Shenting meridian. As soon as the thundercloud absorbed the heavenly tribulation, it changed slightly. A faint red color appeared on the cloud. The 4th level of the heaven-devouring Tao scripture? Yen Chuan was overjoyed. The 3rd level of the heaven-devouring Tao scripture, spring lightning, myriad creation. The 4th level? So what? Yen Chuan stood up and looked at Zizi. Vine demon, protect Zizi and Meow. Yen Chuan shouted. Swoosh. A large number of vines quickly surrounded Zizi. Meow? What's Yen Chuan going to do? Meow asked curiously. In the distance, Yen Chuan looked at his surroundings. Spring lightning. Hum. As the spring lightning rumbled, everything in the surroundings suddenly grew wildly. For a time the vegetation grew lush. The spring lightning's ability was still there. Yen Chuan pondered for a moment before thunder rumbled again. Hum. The 4th level of the heaven-devouring Tao scripture, heavenly lightning. A loud noise rang in the air. Without warning, the sky where Yen Chuan was standing became scorching hot. A white light in the shape of a big fire swept out in all directions. Everywhere it passed, mist rose into the sky. Whoosh, whoosh. The steam from the sea rose into the sky. The earth was steaming, and the terrifying heat instantly swept through the area. Within 10,000 miles, all the plants and trees on the land had withered, and all the water had dried up. The earth had dried up, and in an instant the earth had cracked in all directions. The earth and rocks had turned into sand, and the land had turned red for 10,000 miles. The vast sea was instantly sucked dry. Water vapor soared into the sky, and the seabed was completely exposed. Moreover, countless dry cracks appeared on the seabed, and it was completely desertified. Countless fish were struggling and jumping in the desert. The sea had turned into a desert in the blink of an eye? Thousands of miles of land extremely dry and withered? Meow meow, what's going on? Meow suddenly cried out. Zizi was slightly stunned. A glint flashed across Yen Chuan's eyes. Xiaolei? With a single shout from Xiaolei, 10,000 li of land will be scarlet? Yin Chuan was surprised. Yin Chuan looked at the rolling dark clouds in the sky and his eyes narrowed. Hong. Another loud noise came from the thundercloud in the blue sky. Crash. A huge rainstorm poured down like a waterfall from the sky. In the blink of an eye, the dry land was washed away by a large amount of rain. Soon Yin Chuan was submerged in a huge flood. The torrential flood was like a flood dragon, wreaking havoc in all directions. The land was submerged. Although it was still flowing towards the original sea, Yin Chuan was not in the mood to care about it at this moment. Spring lightning, all things grow? Xiale, chaos appear? If it was someone else, it would not be useful. However, Yin Chuan did not think so. Xiale? Chaos? This was not just a method but a Tao of heaven and earth. It could let Yin Chuan understand the truth of heaven and earth. Chapter 954. A few months later. East of Yin capital. In a mountain forest. Thunderclouds churned in the sky. Huoguang's body was shrouded in bloodlust as he withstood bolts after bolts of lightning. In the end, he punched the sky and sent a blood-red energy fist toward the tribulation clouds. Boom! The tribulation clouds shattered with a loud bang. Huoguang took a deep breath and stood on top of a giant rock. He closed his eyes and sensed the breakthrough in his cultivation. Yin Chuan, Feng Yinyang, and Lu Jin looked at Huoguang, who was not far away. Huoguang has reached the ethereal realm. Lu Jin exclaimed. Who would have thought that in less than 100 years, Huoguang would actually be able to advance from immortal to the emptiness realm? Huoguang's 200 doppelgangers have been on the battlefield for the past 50 years. That's equivalent to 10,000 years of killing. What a terrifying achievement. Feng Yinyang shook his head and exclaimed. You're not bad yourself. I remember that you've been fighting with Feng Shui masters in the immortal realm. Yin Chuan said with a smile. I can only say that I've barely reached my master's level. I'm still slightly lacking compared to those immortal Feng Shui masters. Feng Yinyang said humbly. Immortal? Lu Jin, do you know how to become an immortal? Yin Chuan asked. Lu Jin thought for a moment and said, Jin, you once told me. The 9th level of the upper void realm allows one to undergo the heavenly tribulation and become an immortal. There are 12 levels in the upper void realm. The 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th levels allow one to undergo the heavenly tribulation. The higher the cultivation, the stronger the immortal. There are 4 types of immortals. Heaven, earth, profound and yellow. Heaven, earth, profound and yellow. Yellow is also called human and it's the weakest. Lu Jin explained. Yin Chuan nodded. Yin Chuan added, the reason Bai Ditian didn't quickly undergo the heavenly tribulation and ascend after he recovered his cultivation base from his previous life was because he was only at the 9th level of the upper void realm at that time. He wasn't satisfied with his current cultivation base. If he wanted to become an immortal, he would have to undergo the heavenly tribulation. There aren't many powerhouses in the mortal realm. Your Majesty, what's Bai Ditian's current cultivation base? 10. He should be at the 10th level of the upper void stage. He should still be a little bit away from the 11th level. At this moment, De Zhen's cultivation base should be the highest. Your Majesty, when will we enter the heavenly mystery dreamland again? Feng Yinyang asked expectantly. Yin Chuan shook his head and said, let's properly comprehend what we've learned in the past few years. The heavenly mystery dreamland isn't omnipotent. It can create a group of powerhouses, but it can't create the strongest. Some strengths need to be accumulated over time. Moreover, if there are too many clones, they'll have different emotions and conflict with each other. What you need to do now is to constantly eliminate these conflicting emotions. Yes. Everyone nodded. At the peak of a mountain in the northern divine continent, a group of white-haired old men looked up at the stars in the sky. They seemed to be calculating something with their hands. A white-robed woman stood at the side. She was the woman who looked very much like Yin Chuan's wife in his previous life, Zhenro. She was the heavenly lady of the archaic mysteries sect. Everyone looked up at the sky. A white-haired old man frowned and said, the heavens are dead and the heavenly Tao has collapsed. Our heavenly mystery art can only calculate a little now. Sigh. Another white-haired old man said worriedly, the collapse of the nether realm is actually the nether realm of the sealed world merging with the nether realm of the celestial realm. However, from this moment onward, the new life of the sealed world will be impure. Chapter 955. Heavenly Lady, you came from the celestial world. How is the celestial world now? An elder looked at the heavenly lady. The heavenly lady took a deep breath and said solemnly, "The factions of the celestial world have finally risen to the top after fighting each other. How are these factions compared to before the great ancient calamity?" An elder asked excitedly. Soon. The situation is about to take shape." The heavenly lady took a deep breath and said. The elders clenched their fists in excitement. After the great ancient calamity, the world was in a state of desolation. Now things are finally looking up. Goddess Jichin sealed the 5 realms back then with the greatest purpose of ensuring the purity of the ancient divine souls and bloodlines. This is the last sealed realm. The netherworld has been destroyed. If we don't act now, Goddess Jichin's plan will be useless. Everyone, I propose that the God creation plan begin now. Everyone fell silent for a while, then nodded. God creation plan? Let's begin. I have information on all the outstanding people in the world. Inform them to come to the Archaic Arcanum sect and accept the gift. An elder said with a serious expression. Yes. Everyone answered. Great Jin Empire, Yen Capital, Upper Study Room. A group of ministers stood in front of the study table. Yen Chuan had returned and was looking at the different memorials. There were the secret reports from Lu Gang and the endless information collected by Meng Wenrua. North Divine Continent, Zhu? Yao Tianshang? The Yao race can also establish a fate dynasty? Yen Chuan frowned as he looked at one of the memorials. Meng Wenrua stepped forward. Your Majesty, it has been confirmed that Zhu was the strongest person in the world 30,000 years ago. However, he was a Yao in his previous life. In this life, Zhu shed his Yao body and turned into a human. He established a fate dynasty with a human body. In this life, Yao Tianshang is still a Yao. Moreover, he is imitating the Great Jin Empire. It is called the Yao Imperial Empire. Meng Wenrua explained. Yao race? Imperial Empire? Your Majesty, the Lushan Academy of the North Divine Continent. After submitting to the Yao Imperial Empire, Zhu took all the fate dynasty and formed it. Meng Wenrua explained. Lushan Academy is gone too? Yen Chuan pondered for a while. Yes, of the 4 great academies in the world, the Yushan Academy has submitted to the Dayu Celestial Empire, while the Lushan Academy has submitted to the Yao Imperial Empire. The only ones left are the Julu Academy and the Confucius Academy. Perhaps Your Majesty has heard of the Confucius Academy. The Dean of the Confucius Academy is Your Majesty's grandfather, Kong Daoqiu. Meng Wenrua explained. Kong Daoqiu? Grandpa? Ah. Yen Chuan sneered. Yen Chuan didn't have a good impression of Kong Daoqiu. Otherwise, when Kong Mok forced Kong Susu to her death, why didn't Kong Daoqiu stop him? Yen Chuan did not believe that Kong Daoqiu did not have the ability to do so. While everyone was discussing, Lu Jin's voice came from outside the hall. Your Majesty, Yen Wudi requests an audience. Lu Jin's voice sounded. Yen Wudi? The expressions of the ministers changed. Your Majesty, we will take our leave. Meng Wenrua said. Yen Chuan nodded. The ministers slowly left, leaving only Yen Chuan in the study. Let him in. Yen Chuan shouted. Yes. Soon Yen Wudi stepped into the study. Yen Wudi was silent at this moment. Yen Chuan watched as Yen Wudi walked over until Yen Wudi was right in front of him. Uncle Chuan, your nephew was rash that day. Yen Wudi's voice was laced with guilt. Patting Yen Wudi's shoulder, Yen Chuan smiled faintly and said, Rash? I can understand how you feel. Let bygones be bygones. Although it's a pity for Yen Chuyu, he still has you. Having you as his son was his greatest pride. You being able to live a good life was what he wanted to see before he died. Yen Wudi's eyes flashed with sadness. What do you plan to do next? Yen Chuan asked. Yen Wudi took a deep breath and was silent for a moment before he said, Your nephew promised to come back and help Uncle Chuan once I subdued the Dugu family. My father also hoped for this. If Uncle Chuan doesn't mind. I can't ask for more. Tell me, what do you want to do? Yen Chuan was in a good mood. This was the first time that Yen Chuan had let someone else choose an official. From this, it could be seen that Yen Chuan was very satisfied with this nephew of his. Yen Wudi naturally saw it too. At the same time, his eyes flashed with emotion. Uncle Chuan, I don't like politics. I like fighting more. I don't ask for fame. I just want to help Uncle Chuan. Yen Wudi said after some thought. Yen Wudi had been thinking about it before. However, Yen Wudi couldn't find a suitable position as an official in Dezhen. He could only tell Yen Chuan his wish and let him make the decision. Yen Chuan was silent for a while. After a while, Yen Chuan spoke again. Wudi, I have a position here. It's a department that I've been thinking about for a long time. I wonder if you can do it? Please speak, Uncle Chuan. I want to set up a department of super assassins hidden under the facade of Dezhen. It will clean up everything that can't be handled openly. It will only be responsible to me. I want everyone in this department to be my strongest weapon. Everything will be done cleanly and efficiently. For the sake of Dezhen, we'll patch up all the loopholes. Yen Chuan took a deep breath and said. Yen Wudi's eyes lit up. The only bad thing about this department is that it can't be exposed to the light. Yen Chuan said solemnly. I want to try. Yen Wudi said with a hint of joy. Good. Since that's the case, I'll leave it to you. I'll name it Heaven Mending Pavilion. You'll be the pavilion master of Heaven Mending Pavilion. You'll do things in the dark. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Yes. Invincible Territories Dugu family will do well in Heaven Mending Pavilion. Also, from today onwards, there will be no Yen Wudi in this world. Your Majesty, please call me Invincible Dugu. Yen Wudi said solemnly. Your Majesty? Invincible Dugu? When he heard Yen Wudi call himself Invincible Dugu, Yen Chuan frowned and sighed. Wudi, you don't have to be like this. Invincible Dugu shook his head. Since I've entered Great Zhen, I must understand that even I can't break the rules. Looking at the stubborn Invincible Dugu, Yen Chuan was silent for a while. In the end he nodded. From today onwards, I confer Invincible Dugu as the Pavilion Master of Great Zhen's Heaven Mending Pavilion. You'll be in charge of Heaven Mending Pavilion. You'll only be responsible to me. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Boom. In the outside world, Great Zhen's Sea of Providence churned. A yellow light shot down from the roof and entered Invincible Dugu's body. Your subject, Invincible Dugu, will not disappoint your Majesty. Invincible Dugu bowed respectfully. Outside the study room, all of Great Zhen's ministers looked up at the sky. Clearly the group that went out earlier knew who had been conferred a title. However, no one knew what position Invincible Dugu had been given. Chapter 956. Whoosh. The sky was gloomy, and heavy rain kept falling. In the evening, under the heavy rain, everything seemed unusually quiet. Outside the borders of the Great Zhen Empire, a lesser sect, the Five Elements sect. Five Elements sect, the main hall of the sect. A group of cultivators was sitting in the main hall, led by a red-robed elder. The group frowned at each other. Sect Master, Emperor Imoku asked us to investigate the situation of the Great Zhen Empire, but how are we going to investigate it now? The Great Zhen Empire is getting stronger and stronger. That's right, Sect Master. The Great Zhen Empire now has an imperial examination every year. More and more experts and wise people from the East Divine Continent have entered the Great Zhen Empire. The original 1,100 cities were empty, but after a few decades they are getting more and more abundant. Also Yen Chuan, Yifeng, Huaguang, Jin Diyu, Lu Jin, and Bai Ditian have disappeared for decades. They suddenly returned and no one knows where they went. How are we going to report to Emperor Imoku? The red-robed sect master's face was gloomy. That's not what I'm most worried about. I'm worried that the people we sent to infiltrate the Great Zhen Empire have suddenly disappeared. I don't know if they have been captured. If they are captured, our whereabouts might be exposed. Wang Ke might have been delayed by something. There should be news soon. Even if there is no news, Wang Ke will not betray us. In the main hall, the Five Elements sect's upper echelons were analyzing the information. The heavy rain outside fell on the stone slabs, making pattering sounds. Five Elements sect at the foot of the mountain. At this moment, a group of uninvited guests came. A group of 50 people, all dressed in loose black robes. The rain fell on the black robes, sliding to the ground like raincoats. The 50 black-robed people's faces could not be seen clearly. The leader led the group and walked over step by step on the stone slabs. Who is it? Stop. Immediately, a Five Elements sect disciple jumped out. The leader slashed with the sword in his hand. Tiske. The Five Elements sect's disciple didn't even have time to scream before he was suddenly cut in half and fell onto the stone floor. The rain washed over him and his blood dyed the surroundings red. The black-robed leader said indifferently, "This is Butian Pavilion's first operation. The Five Elements sect, leave no one alive. Kill them all." Yes. The group of black-robed men replied. Shio. The 50 people instantly charged into the heavy rain and entered the Five Elements sect. 2 hours later, at the main peak of the Five Elements sect, at the peak of the Five Elements mountain, in the square of the Five Elements palace, dozens of corpses fell to the ground in the plaza. All of them died with one sword strike, dyeing the plaza red. Rumble. The sky was gloomy, and within the dark clouds, there was a desolate sound of thunder. A group of black-robed men waited. After a while, in the Five Elements Hall, a black-robed man in the lead walked out of the hall under the protection of 3 other black-robed men. He walked to the square where the rain was pouring down. Pavilion Master, the Five Elements sect has been annihilated. A black-robed man stepped forward and said. The leader of the black-robed men nodded and gently shook his black robe to shake off a large amount of rainwater. Then he stepped forward. The group of black-robed men followed behind him and left the Five Elements sect in the heavy rain. The heavy rain washed away the blood on the ground. The Five Elements sect had been annihilated, and not a single person was left alive. Only the footsteps of the group of black-robed men were left. Chapter 957. Dajin Empire, Yanjing. Chaotian Palace Plaza. Yan Chuan held an invitation in his hand, followed by a group of officials. A lady in green stood in front of him. Yan Chuan, I have delivered the letter. Please head to the Archaic Arcanum sect on time. The lady in green said. I remember you. When you first met the Heavenly Lady, you were beside her. Are you her servant? Yan Chuan frowned and asked. The lady in green nodded and said, I was fortunate enough to be chosen by the Heavenly Lady. Indeed. I have received the invitation from the Archaic Arcanum sect. You may return to report. Yan Chuan nodded. The lady in green nodded and was about to leave. Wait. Yan Chuan suddenly said. The lady in green asked curiously. There is one more thing I would like to ask. If it is convenient, please tell me. Yan Chuan said solemnly. The lady in green asked curiously. The Heavenly Lady, the Holy Lady of the Archaic Arcanum sect. I would like to know what the Heavenly Lady's real name is? Yan Chuan asked seriously. After all, the Heavenly Lady and Zhenro were too similar. The Heavenly Lady was even born after Zhenro's death. Even if the Heavenly Lady said that she had regained her memories of her previous life and that she was not Zhenro, Yan Chuan did not give up. The lady in green smiled and said, If it was before, I would not have said it. But it doesn't matter now. After all, you will know sooner or later. This time, the Heavenly Lady and the sect leader will host it together. The Heavenly Lady's name is Zhaoafeng. And I heard that this is a name given by the heavens and not by humans. The lady in green smiled. As she spoke, the lady in green bowed politely and flew into the sky. Suddenly, she turned into a huge green swan and flew towards the north. Zhaoafeng? Julu Academy? Meng Ling Tian Yue and Meng Rongrong sent off a green swan. Ancestor, the Archaic Arcanum sect, the God creation plan? Does the Archaic Arcanum sect really have such power? Yue frowned. God creation plan? Meng Ling Tian shook his head with disdain. Could it be fake? Meng Rongrong was puzzled. Meng Ling Tian shook his head and said, The Archaic Mysteries sect is right to bemoan the state of the universe and pity the fate of mankind. However, the Archaic Mysteries sect is not as powerful as the invitation said. The Celestial Arcanum sect only has a small foundation in the immortal world. Later on, they obtained some inheritances from ancient experts and knew a bit about the events that happened before the great ancient calamity. Tens of thousands of years ago, they moved some of their disciples into this sealed world. And now they're even more arrogant and want to create a god? I see. Louis nodded. There's no need to care about this god-making plan. If the Archaic Mystery sect was truly powerful, why would they need to select the talents of the world? Why couldn't he become a god? My Julu Academy's founder, Invincible East, has already established a foundation in the immortal world. My Julu Academy has its own online inheritance. Even if I participate in this god creation plan, it's useless. Meng Ling Tian shook his head. Yes. The two of them nodded. Great Buddha Imperial Dynasty. Kong Mok led his ministers to look at the Tianji sect's emissary. God creation plan? Kong Mok frowned as he looked at the invitation. I have already delivered the letter. If you wish to participate, please arrive on time. The emissary said solemnly. With that, the emissary left. Kong Mok was left behind, frowning as he looked at the invitation. At this moment, a golden light flashed. A middle-aged man in a white scholarly robe landed in front of Kong Mok. The man's long hair was combed back, and he held a purple bamboo scroll in his hand. On the scroll were the words Spring and Autumn. Although he was dressed in scholarly robes, he exuded an uncontrollable evil aura. Righteous and evil aura blended together, peaceful and violent. It looked very contradictory. Kong Daoqiu? What do you think? Kong Mok asked in a low voice. The scholarly robed man was the dean of the Confucius Lu Academy, Yen Chuan's grandfather, Kong Daoqiu. Kong Daoqiu watched the emissary leave, his eyes narrowing. Archaic Mysteries Sect? They have a foundation in the immortal world. If that's the case, let's do our best to bring them into the great Buddha imperial dynasty. Kong Daoqiu said lightly. Kong Mok nodded. I'll go with you then. Kong Daoqiu said solemnly. All right. Kong Mok nodded. Archaean sect's sacred ground. Meng Hongying, Ren Shu, and a man in a Taoist robe and a purple Taoist crown flew towards the north. The man with the purple Taoist crown was the leader of the three. The man looked like he was in his 50s, and he exuded a ferocious aura with every movement. He stood on a purple gourd that was as tall as a person. He stood on the purple gourd alone, and two purple lights shot out from his hands to carry Meng Hongying and Ren Shu. Even though the purple gourd was a flying weapon, the man did not want the two of them to ride it together. Grandpa, is the invitation from the Archaean sect real? Meng Hongying asked curiously. The man nodded. Since the Archaean sect is willing to pay, there's no reason not to take it. Sacred leader, didn't the invitation say it clearly? With my status, I'm not qualified at all. What's the point of me going? Ren Shu smiled bitterly. You can't go, but Hongying can. You have the ability to help Hongying. The man said in a deep voice. But, sacred leader, with my insignificant skills, how can I? Ren Shu was still trying to evade. The man turned his head, and his eyes turned cold as he shot a murderous aura at Ren Shu. Ren Shu immediately stopped talking. If I want you to go, you have to go. If I say you're useful, then you're useful. Meng Sanxing said in a deep voice. All right, I'll try my best. Ren Shu smiled bitterly. Grandpa, I'll go? You're not going? Meng Hongying asked in surprise. Meng Sanxing showed a hint of disdain. The Archaean sect's god creation? I don't care about it, but it'll be best if you can succeed. Yes. Meng Hongying nodded. Dazhao sacred ground. Mohina Dojin looked at the invitation and narrowed his eyes. Father, god creation? Why would the Archaean sect create a god? Yang Zigu was puzzled. Mohina Dojin took a deep breath and said, Zhijio, this time I'll go with you and take the first place. Yes. Yang Zigu nodded blankly. Great Jin Empire, Yen capital. Yen Chuan dealt with the state affairs and gave some instructions. Finally, he bid farewell to ZZ. I'll be back as soon as possible. When I'm not around, Great Zhen will depend on you. Yen Chuan said with certainty. ZZ nodded. With that, Yen Chuan led Feng Yinyang by Ditian and Lu Jin into the sky. The four of them were all in the emptiness realm and flew toward the Archaean sect in the north. All the heroes of the world gathered at the Archaean sect. Chapter 958. North Divine Continent. Yen Chuan by Ditian, Feng Yinyang and Lu Jin were flying through the air. In the air. Your Majesty, aren't we a little early? Lu Jin asked after some thought. Yes, we are early because we have other things to do. Yen Chuan nodded. Oh. Feng Yinyang, you tell them. Yen Chuan looked at Feng Yinyang. Flying in the air, Feng Yinyang nodded and frowned. The North Divine Continent originally had three unique factions. The Archaic Mysteries Sect, the Lushan Academy, and the Feng Shui Northern Sect. We are going to the Feng Shui Northern Sect. Feng Yinyang explained. Lu Jin's expression changed. I remember seeing a rough map. The Feng Shui Northern Sect is close to the Lushan Academy. The Lushan Academy was annexed by the Goblin Imperial Dynasty. Your Majesty, are you worried that the Goblin Imperial Dynasty has designs on the Feng Shui Northern Sect? Yen Chuan nodded. Although the Feng Shui Northern Sect is strong, we have to be careful. Feng Yinyang continued, the Feng Shui Northern Sect and my Feng Shui Southern Sect are of the same origin. This time we are going to see if we can merge them. Merge? With Mr.'s Feng Shui skills, he should be close to your master's. There is a high chance. Lu Jin said with a smile. Feng Yinyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. No, this time the chances are very small. We might even be annexed by the other party. Oh. My branch was split in half a long time ago into the north and south sections. Even though the two sects are in the north and south, the masters of the two sects are constantly thinking about annexing the other sect and making the other sect their own. Feng Yinyang said in a deep voice. Then why have there been so few battles in the past tens of thousands of years? Lu Jin asked. Because there is no point in fighting. In our lineage, only the sect leader has the true ability to control Feng Shui. The disciples of the sect are just servants. Although they know a lot about feng shui compared to the sect leader, they know too little. As long as the sect leader is still around, the sect is still around. So, there is no point in fighting between the two sects. Feng Yinyang said. The sect master of the North faction is a powerful figure. When my master was still alive, he told me not to provoke him. His feng shui is so strong that even my master is ashamed of his inferiority. Feng Yinyang was worried. Lu Jin said in surprise. Our main goal this time is to test the feng shui northern sect and wait for the right opportunity. The three of us are here to protect Feng Yinyang. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Lu Jin nodded. How should I address the northern sect's sect leader? Lu Jin asked. His surname is Mu and his name is Ghostfire. Feng Yinyang said. Mu's Ghostfire? Lu Jin muttered the strange name. 20 days later, the northern divine continent was a place where heaven earth yuan qi gathered. There were countless mountain ranges stacked on top of each other. If a knowledgeable person were to see this, they would definitely be astonished. This was because every single mountain range was actually a dragon vein. With tens of thousands of dragon veins gathered, the heaven earth yuan qi here was 100 times more abundant than anywhere else. There were also countless cities in the area, and black-robed figures roamed the area. In one of the cities in the periphery, 5 black-robed figures stood on top of a city tower, looking into the distance. The southern sect has been destroyed. Junior brothers, did you find anything on your trip to the south? The leader of the black-robed figures asked with a frown. No, there is no news of Li Kanglin. From the looks of it, Li Kanglin has been killed. The Great Nightmare Heaven Dynasty also has feng shui masters, and we have fought with them before. However, compared to the sect leader, they are far inferior. Another black-robed figure said. Chapter 959. Feng Shui Masters? It doesn't matter if they're strong or not. What the sect leader wants to know is who obtained Li Kanglin's inheritance, the leader said. We've already identified 10 Feng Shui Masters who are still alive. We've sent people to investigate. The leader was silent for a moment before he said, Don't let any of them go. The sect leader values the inheritance of the southern sect. Find these people as soon as possible. Also, Yao Qianshang has taken over Lushan Academy and is currently stationed there. He's obviously planning to make a move against the northern sect. Yao Qianshang? The most powerful person in the world 30,000 years ago? So what? The sect leader's strength is beyond their comprehension. Don't worry, eldest senior brother. Another feng shui master said. The leader nodded. While the group of brothers were talking, a rumbling sound came from the south. What's that sound? Eldest senior brother frowned. Rumble. The sound from the south was getting closer and closer. It was as if 10,000 horses were galloping toward the northern sect. Roar. Roar. A dragon's roar came from the south, and the earth trembled. Swish, swish. A large number of feng shui masters gathered in the northern sect. They stood in a huge square in the south of the northern sect and looked toward the south. Is that the sound of the dragon veins? And there's more than one? Eldest senior brother said. Finally, after a dragon's roar, the scene in the distance was revealed to the group of feng shui masters. It was a huge mountain range. Amid the rumbling sound, the entire mountain range seemed to have come alive and was moving toward the northern sect. 4 figures stood at one end of the mountain range. It was as if they were standing on a dragon's head. The mountain range was rolling toward them. That was not all. Behind this mountain range, there were 99 similar mountain ranges moving with a rumbling sound. Yen Chuan and his group were at the top of the mountain range. Under the control of Feng Yinyang, 100 mountain ranges swept over like a river. Wherever they passed, the earth trembled and soil flew into the sky. 100 dragon veins? A feng shui master's expression changed. Riding 100 dragons? What a powerful feng shui master. Another northern sect feng shui master exclaimed. They don't come with good intentions. Defend. Eldest senior brother's expression changed. About 100 feng shui masters lined up in a line. Suddenly they squatted down and stretched out their right hands. A yellow aura suddenly emerged from their right hands. Everyone thrust their palms into the ground. It was inserted into the soil. Dragon come. Eldest senior brother shouted coldly. Suddenly, a deafening dragon roar came from behind the feng shui masters. Rumble. The earth churned as streaks of yellow light shot out. The yellow light rushed in front of everyone and suddenly broke out of the ground, forming hundreds of yellow dragons that bared their fangs and brandished their claws. The hundreds of yellow dragons were all thousands of feet long, and all of them glared angrily at the south. A fierce and violent aura surged forward. The northern sect was similar to the southern sect in that it was a holy land for feng shui cultivators. It had countless dragon veins, and as long as a disciple summoned them, the dragon veins would gather and serve as a weapon for feng shui masters. The 100 dragons roared. Under the control of the feng shui masters, they angrily rushed towards the 100 mountain ranges coming from the south. Boom! The 100 mountain ranges came to a sudden stop. Chapter 960. Above the 100 mountain ranges, a yellow light emerged from each of them. They were all in the shape of a dragon's head, confronting the 100 yellow dragons opposite them. Roar! 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 The dragons roared and no one was willing to give in. Who are you? The eldest senior brother's face darkened as he shouted. On the peak of the leading mountain Yan Chuan, Lu Jin, and Bai Ditian did not say anything. At this moment, Yan Chuan had completely handed the situation over to Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang took a step forward and said in a deep voice, Feng Yinyang of the South Sect requests to fight the Northern Sect, the Ghost Fire of the Grave. Feng Yinyang shouted coldly. The 100 yellow dragons fell silent and no longer rampaged. South Sect? Wasn't the South Sect destroyed? A feng shui master muttered. However, the expression of the eldest senior brother changed. You are from the South Sect? The eldest senior brother asked solemnly. The disciples of the Northern Sect knew very little about the Ghost Valley, but it did not mean that they knew nothing. One person representing a sect was very common in feng shui cultivation. Go and inform the Ghost Fire of the Grave. Feng Yinyang said in a deep voice. The feng shui masters looked at each other. Finally they looked at the eldest senior brother. The eldest senior brother looked at Feng Yinyang with uncertain eyes. Humph, do you think you can meet the sect master just because you want to? South Sect? You said that you represent the South Sect. What proof do you have? The eldest senior brother said with a serious expression. Feng Yinyang slowly jumped down the mountain. He walked forward step by step. How do you want to prove it? Feng Yinyang said calmly. Controlling 100 dragons does not prove that you are the sect master of the South Sect. If you want to meet the sect master of the Northern Sect, show me your ability. The eldest senior brother shouted. Feng Yinyang smiled and nodded. He looked up at the 100 yellow dragons in front of the 100 feng shui masters and smiled. He reached out and grabbed at the void. One of the dragon veins behind him suddenly shook. Then, an illusory yellow dragon broke out of its body and collided with the yellow dragon opposite it. Boom! When the two dragons collided, smoke and dust filled the air. Amidst the smog, the two dragon heads drew the endless power of the earth from the ground. As they stepped on the ground, their heads faced each other as they collided. Feng Yinyang waved his hand again. A yellow dragon rushed out from each of the 100 mountain ranges that came under the command of the Yinyang Imperial Messenger. Boom! 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 The dragon's head collided with the dragon's head, and the huge collision caused the surrounding fog to become even denser. Roar! The 100 yellow dragons of the Southern Sect and the 100 yellow dragons of the Northern Sect collided and roared at each other. Neither side was willing to back down. Feng Yinyang, one man against 100 feng shui masters. The essence of the earth was extracted by the 200 yellow dragons, causing the soil to deteriorate and haze to fill the sky. Eldest senior brother's expression changed. The battle immediately attracted countless disciples of the Northern Sect of feng shui, and a large number of feng shui masters rushed over from the north. At the same time, the feng shui masters quickly controlled the dragon veins to join the battle from all directions. Feng Yinyang alone wanted to fight the entire Northern Sect of feng shui. The grand battle of magical powers immediately caused the surrounding cultivators to reveal astonished expressions. Someone actually dared to provoke the Northern Sect of feng shui? Did he want to die? Not far from the Northern Sect of feng shui, in a large hall of the Lushan Academy, Yao Qianshang was discussing something with a group of great demons. Reporting Demon Emperor, there's a change in the Northern Sect of feng shui. A great demon rushed into the hall. Yao Qianshang was puzzled. A feng shui master challenged the Northern Sect of feng shui, the great demon said. Oh, a feng shui master challenged the Northern Sect of feng shui? Ah, interesting. Who did he challenge? Yao Qianshang laughed curiously. No, he didn't challenge anyone. He challenged the Northern Sect of feng shui. The great demon immediately corrected him. Huh. The great demons in the hall didn't understand. No, I watched from afar. That person didn't challenge anyone. He challenged the entire northern sect of Feng Shui. He challenged the entire northern sect of Feng Shui. He challenged all the Feng Shui masters of the northern sect. He defeated 10,000 Feng Shui masters by himself. The great demon explained. Yao Qianshang? All the great demons? Chapter 961. No, I saw it from afar. That person wasn't challenging anyone. He was challenging the entire Feng Shui northern sect, the entire northern sect. He was challenging all the Feng Shui masters in the northern sect. 1 against 10,000. The great demon explained. Yao Qianshang? All the great demons? The hall immediately fell into silence. Bastard! How is that possible? Yao Qianshang immediately scolded. It's true. They've really started fighting. That Feng Shui master came with 100 dragon veins. He's fighting 100 Feng Shui masters alone, but 100 Feng Shui masters are still no match for him. More and more Feng Shui masters from the northern sect are joining the battle. The great demon immediately swore. Demon Emperor, it looks like it's true. The person who came is using Feng Shui to fight Feng Shui. And from the looks of it, this person's Feng Shui skills are extremely powerful. A great demon said with a frown. The 2 strongest Feng Shui masters in the world, Li Kanglin and Ghostfire. We don't know if Li Kanglin is dead or alive. Who is it? Another person asked worriedly. Demon Emperor, you stayed here to reclaim the Will-o'-the-Wisps, but the northern sect's Feng Shui is too powerful. Now this Feng Shui master is provoking the northern sect. Could he have the same goal as you? A great demon frowned. Yao Qianshang's eyes narrowed as he said, let's go and take a look. Also, Bat King, gather all the tribes near you. Bats are immune to Feng Shui to a certain extent. Just in case something happens. Yes. A great demon answered immediately. Go. Taking a step forward, Yao Qianshang led a group of great Yao and flew out of the main hall, heading towards the Feng Shui northern sect. Feng Shui northern sect, south. More and more Feng Shui masters joined the fray. Arg. 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 More and more dragon veins were extracted, and they exploded out with immense Feng Shui power. Right now, 2,000 northern sect yellow dragons were fighting against Feng Yinyang. Eldest senior brother's expression was extremely ugly. 2,000 against 100? Feng Yinyang did not have many yellow dragons. The northern sect had mobilized so many dragon veins. How could they not win? If it was a few decades ago, Feng Yinyang would not have been able to do so. However, in the past 50 years, Feng Yinyang had followed Yan Chuan into the heavenly secret realm. His birth chart power had increased by more than 10,000 years. Moreover, in the celestial realm, Feng Yinyang had fought with countless Feng Shui masters. Therefore, he quickly comprehended Li Kanglin's legacy. Right now he was closing in on Li Kanglin. Aside from the sect masters, everyone else in the 2 Feng Shui sacred grounds was just a servant. Master versus servant. So what if you have more people? Now that Feng Yinyang's foundation has taken shape and his cultivation has reached the upper void realm, he is not afraid of the northern sect's disciples at all. Feng Yinyang had nothing to fear in terms of Feng Shui as long as it was not the Will-o'-the-Wisp himself. Continue. Gather more dragon veins for me. I want to tear his 100 dragon veins to pieces. Eldest senior brother shouted angrily. At this moment, eldest senior brother represented the northern sect. This was no longer a matter of winning or losing. It was a matter of dignity. He had to defeat Feng Yinyang no matter what. Rumble. As the earth churned, tens of thousands of dragons roared and shook the sky. The entire northern sect knew that something big had happened. The dragon veins continued to surge. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Dragon veins gathered one after another like a surging river, wanting to completely destroy the Yin-Yang bestowment. Great dragon vein expansion. Feng Yinyang shouted softly. A huge compass appeared under his feet. Chapter 962. On the compass, the 100 yellow dragons of Feng Yin and Yang that were struggling bitterly suddenly trembled. Whoosh! 1 turned into 2, 2 turned into 4, 4 turned into 8, 8 turned into 16. The 100 yellow dragons of the envoys of Yin and Yang continued to increase in number. From 100 to 1,000, from 1,000 to 5,000, and from 10,000 to 10,000. It was rapidly increasing in number. Of course, every time the number doubled, the yellow dragons became fainter. Feng Shui evolution? Are you trying to destroy these 100 dragon veins? The eldest senior brother exclaimed. Not just destroy. How can there be so many changes? This is impossible. The eldest senior brother exclaimed. Boom, boom. More and more of the northern sex dragon veins collided with the dragon veins that had been strengthened by the power of yin and yang. The essence of the earth was constantly being extracted from both sides. The further they went, the worse the earth became. Sand rose into the sky and haze wreaked havoc. Rumble. Feng Yinyang's ability to fight 10,000 enemies alone was not an exaggeration. In the haze, 10,000 dragons fought. They fought fiercely. But even in such an intense battle, the will-o'-the-wisp did not appear. The mountain peak that Yan Chuan, Bai Ditian, and Lu Jin were standing on had been completely drained of its essence. It had turned into a pile of dust, and in the midst of the battle, it had formed a vast haze that soared into the sky. Yan Chuan, Bai Ditian, and Lu Jin flew into the sky and stood in midair to watch the battle. But as they watched, the three of them suddenly raised their eyebrows and turned their heads. Not far from the three of them there were three other figures standing there. Meng Hongying, Ren Shu and Meng Sanxing. When Meng Hongying saw Yan Chuan, she was first happy, then a trace of worry appeared on her face. Ren Shu's eyes shone brightly as he looked at Yan Chuan with surprise and curiosity. That was because Ren Shu had seen Yan Chuan before. Yan Chuan's cultivation had risen too quickly. How many years had it been? The leader of the three was Meng Sansheng. At this moment, Meng Sansheng was carrying a huge purple gourd on his back. His forehead was slightly protruding, and he was wearing a purple crown and a purple robe. He stood in front of the two people and looked at Yan Chuan and the others with a serious expression. Meng Sansheng, the current leader of the divine sect Sacred Grounds, the Empress' grandfather. Bai Ditian immediately transmitted to Yan Chuan. Meng Sansheng? Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. Yan Chuan naturally wouldn't underestimate the lord of a holy land. Meng Sansheng glanced at the 10,000 dragon battle before turning to look at Yan Chuan's group. Grandpa, this is Zizi's husband, Yan Chuan of the Great Jin Empire. Meng Hongying explained. Meng Sansheng looked at Yan Chuan. Greetings, divine sect holy master. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Although he didn't have a good impression of the divine sect Sacred Grounds, he was still Zizi's grandfather. Yan Chuan still gave him enough respect. Meng Sansheng looked at Yan Chuan and smiled faintly before ignoring him. It was as if he didn't care about Yan Chuan at all. That look of disdain immediately made Lu Jin's expression change. Yan Chuan waved his hand and stopped Lu Jin's anger. Yan Chuan smiled faintly. Since others didn't care about him, why should he respect them? Moreover, Zizi didn't have any feelings for her grandfather. Then Yan Chuan looked at Ren Shu and Meng Hongying. Ren Shu's eyes rolled around, thinking of something. As for Meng Hongying, she gave Yan Chuan an apologetic look. Faced with Meng Hongying's apologetic expression, Yan Chuan smiled slightly, indicating that it was fine. Meng Sansheng didn't care about Yan Chuan and looked at Bai Ditian. Bai Ditian, it's been 8,000 years. We meet again. Meng Sansheng said faintly. Bai Ditian frowned at Meng Sansheng and nodded. I heard that you've submitted to him? Meng Sansheng smiled. Bai Ditian frowned and said, Meng Sansheng, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush. It's been 8,000 years. You just reincarnated, right? Do you remember that you issued a challenge to our divine sect Sacred Grounds 8,000 years ago? Meng Sansheng said faintly. Bai Ditian frowned and said, that's in the past. You didn't come to challenge me, but you ascended with your wife. When your wife ascended, you didn't succeed in your tribulation and reincarnated. You may have forgotten, but I haven't. That challenge letter is still on my table. I know that you've lost 8,000 years of cultivation, but the challenge letter is a challenge. I won't bully you. If you can take one of my punches, I'll let bygones be bygones. Meng Sansheng said in a low voice. Bai Ditian, he seems to be testing you. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Bai Ditian nodded solemnly. Meng Sansheng looked at Yan Chuan suspiciously when he saw Bai Ditian agree with Yan Chuan. However, he quickly looked at Bai Ditian and said, don't worry, it's just a punch. I won't use my treasure. Bai Ditian looked at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan nodded lightly. Meng Sansheng wanted to test Bai Ditian, but Yan Chuan also wanted to see Meng Sansheng's strength. Bai Ditian stepped forward. In the distance, Meng Hongying and Ren Shu also retreated. Lu Jin, do you know why Bai Ditian challenged Meng Sansheng back then? Yan Chuan asked in a low voice. Lu Jin shook her head. There's very little information about 8,000 years ago. Bai Ditian was extremely calm and rarely did such a thing. There must be a very important grudge back then. We have to ask Bai Ditian to find out. Yin Chuan nodded and looked at the sky. The corners of Meng Sansheng's mouth curled up into a smile as he punched out. A huge purple fist aura condensed in the sky. Once the fist aura was released, it created a huge storm. This fist aura seemed to have passed through the storm. Bai Ditian's eyes narrowed as he punched out with his fist. When one's strength reached their level, any fancy Dharma techniques would seem insignificant. The white fist aura and the purple fist aura collided. Boom! When the two fists collided, a sharp aura shot out. Once the aura was released, the surrounding storm was destroyed. Boom! Under the huge aura of the fist aura, the endless fog was instantly washed away. The battle between the two upper void realm experts instantly released a huge amount of ferocious energy. Under the powerful aura, many feng shui masters on the ground were swept away. They all hid behind the yellow dragon in horror to resist the aftershock. The 10,000 dragon battle suddenly stopped. And where Yen Chuan was, there was also a strong wind blowing against Yen Chuan and Lu Jin. At this moment, even if the aftershock was strong, Yen Chuan didn't move. Instead, he stared at Meng Sansheng. At this moment, Meng Sansheng's pupils constricted and turned purple. His purple pupils emitted a faint light as he stared at the two fist auras. No eye technique? Divine power? Meng Sansheng is not only testing Bai Ditian. What is he trying to do? Yen Chuan's face darkened. What kind of eye technique is this? Yen Chuan frowned as he stared. Chapter 963. What kind of eye technique is this? Yen Chuan frowned as he stared at it. In the sky, Bai Ditian's expression became even more savage. Meng Sansheng's expression suddenly changed. This was because the power of Bai Ditian's punch was not what he had imagined. Hadn't Bai Ditian not cultivated for 8,000 years? How could it be stronger than 8,000 years ago? Meng Sansheng's fist strength also rose sharply. Under the collision of power, the two powerhouses realized how powerful the other was, and their power increased sharply. Rumble. The air around them exploded, and the shockwaves spread further and further. In the forests around the northern sect, countless creatures were curled up on the ground, not daring to get up. Bai Ditian? You're actually not at the 9th level of the upper void stage? I really underestimated you. Meng Sansheng said coldly. Meng Sansheng's fist power increased, but his pupils were still purple. A technique? Yen Chuan stared at Meng Sansheng's pupils. Meng Sansheng's pupils were slowly rotating. An unfathomable power flashed in his eyes. What kind of eye technique is this? What threat is there to Bai Ditian? Yen Chuan frowned and pondered. Not far away, Meng Hongying retreated again and again, but Ninth Rat's eyes were wide open. This is? A technique? Isn't this the legendary Eye of Reincarnation? Ren Rat quickly retreated in horror. As it retreated, Ninth Rat stared at the distant Bai Ditian. Ren Rat said in shock, Yes, I understand now. Bai Ditian is a reincarnated person, and he reincarnated with his memories. There must be some remnant samsara law in his life. Sacred Lord, are you trying to replicate all of the samsara law? At this moment, Ninth Rat looked at Meng Sansheng with fear in its eyes. At this moment, Yao Tianshang was leading a group of great demons from the forest far away. Yao Tianshang raised his eyebrows as he watched the two experts fight from afar. Bai Ditian? Is that Meng Sansheng? A great demon immediately recognized him. Both of them are at least at the 10th level of the upper void stage. Furthermore, he didn't even use his full strength. Yao Tianshang said with a serious expression. Ah! The group of great demons exclaimed in shock. Upper void stage? Although there were still many upper void stage cultivators in the world, everyone knew that the upper void stage was harder to cultivate as one progressed. Especially from the 9th layer onwards, there were countless difficulties and obstacles. There were even people who were stuck at the 9th layer for their entire lives. But all of them were at least at the 10th level? Rumble. Behind Yao Tianshang, there was a huge commotion in the sky. At the same time, the sky suddenly turned dark, covering the sun. Countless bats flapped their wings and flew over. Whoosh! The infinity bats brought with them gusts of wind. Swish! A black-robed man landed beside Yao Tianshang. Demon Emperor, the experts of my bat clan are all here. There are 36 million of them. The black-robed man laughed. All right. Bat King, tell them not to act rashly. Yao Tianshang shook his head. Bat King nodded. In the distance, Bai Ditian and Meng Sansheng were locked in a fist fight. Neither of them could do anything to the other. 30 minutes later, Meng Sansheng's eyes returned to normal. It was obvious that he had completely grasped Bai Ditian's reincarnation law. Boom. With a loud bang, their fists were separated by a huge force. Billowing winds swept up in the surroundings. Bai Ditian and Meng Sansheng looked at each other as if there was no victor. Alright, that's it. Bai Ditian, you really surprised me. Meng Sansheng smiled faintly. Chapter 964. Bai Ditian narrowed his eyes as he stared at Meng Sansheng. Meng Sansheng, what are you doing here? Bai Ditian shouted. What I do is none of your business. Remember, it's best if you don't interfere. Meng Sansheng said in a deep voice. This tone made Bai Ditian squint his eyes in displeasure. Bai Ditian? Yan Chuan shouted. Bai Ditian looked at Yan Chuan and walked over. Let's take a look first. Yan Chuan smiled. And? Bai Ditian nodded. Meng Sansheng no longer paid any attention to Yan Chuan and the other two. He scanned the surroundings again, and when he saw the bats and Yao Tianshang in the distance, a trace of disdain flashed across his eyes. Grave Will, the wisp, I'm here. Why aren't you coming out? Meng Sansheng shouted. With a clear shout, his voice immediately rolled out like thunder. However, the Grave Will, the wisp, did not appear. Meng Sansheng narrowed his eyes, and a vicious look appeared in his eyes. Grave Will, the wisp, I'm here again. Why aren't you coming out? If you don't come out, I'll raise your northern sect to the ground. Meng Sansheng shouted again. Raise the northern sect to the ground? What arrogance! Both Yan Chuan and Yao Tianshang frowned as they looked at Meng Sansheng. How dare you? This is my Feng Shui northern sect. How dare you? The first senior brother shouted. Roar! A yellow dragon soared into the sky, carrying a ferocious aura as it clawed at Meng Sansheng. When the first senior brother attacked, about 100 Feng Shui masters controlled the yellow dragon to charge at Meng Sansheng as if they wanted to tear him apart. Meng Sansheng smiled disdainfully as the huge gourd on his back flew into the sky. Treasure, please accept. Meng Sansheng said to the gourd solemnly. Xiaoqin shouted, and a strong suction force suddenly came out of the purple gourd's mouth. The suction force headed straight for the yellow dragon. Roar! The yellow dragon struggled as it was sucked towards the gourd. Whoosh! When it reached the edge of the gourd, it seemed to be sucked in by a suction force and was sucked into the gourd. 1, 10, 100 yellow dragons rushed towards the gourd. In the blink of an eye, all of the yellow dragons were sucked into the gourd. Meng Sansheng's mouth twitched as if he wasn't satisfied. The mouth of the gourd was facing the nearly 10,000 yellow dragons below. Ong! Ong! The 10,000 dragons cried out as if they were struggling against this suction force. However, under this suction force they were unable to struggle at all. Even the yellow dragon that Feng Yinyang had summoned was being sucked away crazily. Feng Yinyang reached out to suppress it, but he couldn't suppress it at all. These dragon veins were being pulled towards the purple gourd uncontrollably. More and more. Impossible. Evil Taoist, stop. A Feng Shui master shouted angrily. Umph. Meng Sansheng snorted. The huge purple gourd pulled the cursing Feng Shui master towards it. In the blink of an eye, the 100 Feng Shui masters who had attacked Meng Sansheng were all sucked towards the purple gourd. Without exception, all of them were sucked towards the purple gourd. Ah! The Feng Shui masters screamed. However, they couldn't stop it at all. Rumble! The huge purple gourd sucked in the dragon veins crazily. In the blink of an eye, the 10,000 yellow dragons formed by the dragon veins were sucked into the gourd. It even recruited 100 Feng Shui masters. Yan Chuan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. What kind of Dharma treasure is this? Yan Chuan asked in surprise. The primordial gourd. I've seen it 8,000 years ago, but it wasn't this powerful. Bai Ditian exclaimed. Chapter 965. Primordial gourd? Yan Chuan frowned. At this moment, Meng Sansheng seemed to be unsatisfied. He pointed the mouth of the gourd at the countless bats behind Yao Tianshang. Rumble. The bats were sucked into the gourd, and the huge suction force couldn't stop them at all. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The bats flapped their wings in fear. Stop. Bat King shouted angrily. He opened his mouth and spat out a white light wave towards Meng Sansheng. Whoosh. The white light wave was sucked into the primordial gourd. While it was sucking in the bats, it suddenly had a suction force on Bat King. Rumble. A huge force pulled on Bat King. Ah ah ah. Bat King screamed in fear. Pa. Yao Qinshan grabbed Bat King's leg and pulled him back slowly. With Yao Qinshan's strength, Bat King was able to avoid being sucked in by the purple gourd. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The bats flapped their wings in fear, but they were still sucked into the gourd. Empty. After all the bats entered the purple gourd, the suction force of the purple gourd stopped. Primordial gourd? Countless cultivators in all directions were shocked. Hundreds of feng shui masters, tens of thousands of dragon veins, and tens of millions of bat demons were sucked into the primordial gourd. Give me back my child. Bat King screamed in fear. If not for Yao Tianxiang's strength, Bat King would have been sucked in as well. How could this gourd be so powerful? Meng Sanxing looked at Bat King coldly. Then he looked at Yao Tianxiang. Umph. Meng Sanxing snorted. Yao Tianxiang's eyes turned cold, but he didn't seek justice for these bats. Meng Sanxing's strength had exceeded Yao Tianxiang's expectations. The primordial gourd could only be absorbed by those in the upper void realm. It seemed that anyone below the upper void realm, be it pure energy, demonic beasts or humans, could absorb it. But what about after it was absorbed? It's sucked in and trapped? Lu Jin asked in surprise. No. Bai Ditian shook his head. It's not trapped? Then what is it? Lu Jin asked in surprise. Refine it. Bai Ditian took a deep breath. In the distance, Meng Sanxing closed the lid of the purple gourd and gently shook it. After shaking it 3 times, he took off the gourd lid again. The mouth of the gourd was facing Meng Sanxing. A strand of purple qi came out of the gourd and was sucked into Meng Sanxing's nose. The purple qi was refined? Lu Jin asked in surprise. That's right. That purple gas is the primordial violet qi that was refined from everything that was sucked into the gourd. Bai Ditian explained. Primordial gourd, primordial violet qi? Yen Chuan was finally moved. How could there be such a treasure in this world? Absorbing all things in the world and returning them to their origin to become primordial violet qi? Yao Tianxiang exclaimed in shock from afar. Primordial violet qi has the ability to create. It's the source of heaven and earth's origin energy, and it can create all things in the world. The nearby 9th rat exclaimed in surprise. The primordial gourd has never been this strong in the past. Could it be that this primordial gourd is also a growth-type Dharma treasure? Bai Ditian took a deep breath. With this Dharma treasure, no one dared to underestimate Meng Sanxing anymore. Meng Sanxing had also shown that he had the ability to be arrogant. Meng Sanxing looked at Yao Tianxiang from afar. He refined 30 million bat demons. Is he warning me not to interfere in what's going to happen next? Yao Tianxiang said with a dark expression. Meng Sanxing did not look at the crowd anymore. Instead, he turned to the feng shui northern sect. Meng Sanxing believed that with his warning, no one would dare to stop him. Chapter 966. Grave Ghost Fire, come out. Meng Sanxing shouted again. His voice pierced through the void. The entire northern sect was filled with Meng Sanxing's cold voice. There were many cities in the surroundings. Immediately, countless cultivators flew out of the cities in shock and quickly flew over. Yen Chuan restrained Feng Yinyang, Bai Ditian and Lu Jin. Yao Tianxiang restrained his subordinates. They frowned as they looked at Meng Sanxing. They did not know why Meng Sanxing was here. None of the feng shui masters stepped forward to fight Meng Sanxing. The primordial gourd was too powerful. Feng Yinyang could fight 10,000 people by himself, but Meng Sanxing could kill 10,000 people by himself. He was even more terrifying than Feng Yinyang. Meng Sanxing led Meng Hongying and Rin Shu to the center of the sect. There was a huge mountain at the center of the northern sect. However, this mountain was different from the other mountains. It was as bare as a grave. It looked extremely desolate from afar. Meng Sanxing's powerful aura pressed down. In the distance at the center of the mountain, a crack slowly appeared. A figure slowly walked out from the crack. It was a gray-robed old man with silver hair. His eyes were cloudy and his face was covered in wrinkles. He did not seem powerful at all. He looked more like an ordinary old man. Meng Sanxing narrowed his eyes and withdrew his aura. Meng Sanxing stared at the gray-robed old man. The old man walked to a balcony that appeared in front of him. The old man stood quietly on the balcony. Countless feng shui masters were shocked. Sect master? Oh, how is this possible? One of the feng shui masters exclaimed. Your grave ghost fire? How did you become so old? Meng Sanxing was shocked. The old man was the northern sect master, Grave Ghost Fire. He stood quietly on the balcony and looked around. His gaze swept past the experts and suddenly he saw Feng Yinyang. A glimmer of light flashed across the ghostly fire's turbid eyes. He seemed to have guessed something. In the end, grave ghost fire looked at Meng Sansheng. Meng Sansheng? It's been so many years since we last met. Why have you come to my northern sect? The ghost fire asked in a hoarse voice. Meng Sansheng frowned, but he still said in a deep voice, I want to borrow something from you. The grave will. The wisp was silent for a moment before saying, Don't tell me you want to borrow my head. Aha, my head. Maybe I want the reincarnation pool. Meng Sansheng laughed. Reincarnation pool? Feng Yinyang's expression changed. What's wrong? Yin Chuan asked. Reincarnation pool? Your Majesty, this reincarnation pool is an important treasure of my Ghost Valley. You need to comprehend my Ghost Valley to a certain degree before you can refine it. My southern sect masters, including my master, have never been able to refine it. This ghost flame is actually so powerful. Feng Yinyang said with a grave expression. Feng Yinyang exclaimed in surprise, while the ghost fire in the distant grave frowned. He turned his head and looked at the feng shui masters around him. Reincarnation pool? In order to refine the reincarnation pool, I reversed my lifespan and became what I am today. Only 5 people know about this, but I didn't expect you to plant a spy among them. Ah, you're really fast. The ghost fire's eyes turned cold. Grave ghost fire waved his hand. Bang, bang. 2 of the feng shui masters suddenly exploded, and their souls appeared in the ghost fire's palm. And it wasn't just the 2 of them. 3 other souls shot over from all directions, which were instantly compressed into the palm of the graveyard ghost flame. Chapter 967. Sect Master, please spare my life. Sect Master, I am innocent. Holy Lord, save me, save me. The 5 souls screamed in fear. Ka. The 5 souls were crushed into a wisp of green smoke in the hand of the grave's will, the wisp. Their souls were all destroyed. The grave ghost flame looked at Meng Sansheng again. Meng Sansheng, I know that you are cultivating the power of reincarnation and are searching for the rules of reincarnation. Everything in the world has reincarnation. You can search for it, but don't try to take me away. Although my reincarnation pool is called reincarnation, it is not the reincarnation of this world. It is useless to you. The grave ghost flame said. Useless? How do you know it is useless? The reincarnation pool is mine. I rarely leave the divine world, and this is a rare opportunity for me to come to the north. The reincarnation pool is mine. Meng Sansheng shouted. The grave ghost flame snorted. If you want to see the reincarnation pool, go ahead. The grave ghost flame said coldly. As he spoke, the huge mound beneath the grave will-o'-the-wisp's feet slowly disappeared. The ground below suddenly turned into a quiet pool of water. The grave will-o'-the-wisp slowly stood on top of the pool. Reincarnation pool? Feng Yinyang's face darkened. What's the use of the reincarnation pool? Yin Chuan asked curiously. Feng Yinyang smiled bitterly and said, Your Majesty, there are many treasures in the world. The reincarnation pool of the Phantom Valley is a strange treasure. According to the Phantom Valley's inheritance, once I refine the reincarnation pool, I can capture the reincarnation spirit from the reincarnation for my use. What? Forcefully capture the reincarnation spirit from the reincarnation pool? Bai Ditian was shocked. Meng Sansheng looked at the huge reincarnation pool from afar, and a look of satisfaction flashed across his eyes. His pupils shrank and turned purple as he stared at the reincarnation pool. On the other hand, Ren Rat was terrified. Holy Lady, let's go. Ren Rat shouted. What's wrong? I can sense that there's a terrifying power in the pool. Quick. Ren Rat shouted. Meng Hongying saw Ren Rat's expression and knew that it was dangerous. She quickly retreated and left Meng Sansheng. Buzz. A light ripple suddenly appeared in the reincarnation pool that was as calm as a mirror. Then the ripple became bigger and bigger. Slowly, a cultivator in blue Taoist robes emerged from the reincarnation pool. The cultivator in blue Taoist robes had his eyes closed and looked illusory. However, it seemed to only be a soul. Only when it completely floated out of the reincarnation pool did it suddenly open its eyes. Boom. The Taoist-robed cultivator released his aura, and a powerful storm erupted. Immortal? Meng Sansheng's face sank. The soul of an immortal? In the distance, Yao Tianshang's expression changed. Yin Chuan, Bai Ditian and company also looked at the scene in shock. Immortal? A ghost immortal preparing to reincarnate? The inheritance is indeed right. The cycle pool is an incredible treasure. Feng Yinyang exclaimed in shock. Who is it? Who dares to disturb my reincarnation? The ghost immortal's face immediately revealed a furious expression. It's him, Meng Sansheng. The ghost fire pointed at Meng Sansheng. At this moment, the ghost immortal's consciousness seemed to be muddled, and he was only slightly clear-headed. Bastard. The ghost immortal roared angrily at Meng Sansheng. Go tear him apart. The ghost fire called out softly. Boom. The ghost immortal charged into the sky and attacked Meng Sansheng. The moment the immortal appeared, the surrounding heaven-earth essence chi seemed to boil. He reached out his hand and attacked Meng Sansheng with an immortal technique. Chapter 968. As soon as the immortal appeared, the heaven and earth essence chi in the surroundings surged. He stretched out his hand and shot an immortal technique at Meng Sansheng. Above the void, a 10,000-foot tall mountain appeared out of thin air. It fell from the sky and pressed down on Meng Sansheng. Meng Sansheng's face darkened. He stretched out his hand and hit the sky. Boom. The vast purple fist energy blocked the 10,000-foot tall mountain. Roar. The ghost immortal roared and appeared at the peak of the mountain. He stepped on the mountain and exerted force with his feet. Boom. The mountain suddenly sank. Even with Meng Sansheng's strength, he was pressed into the ground from the sky. In the blink of an eye, he was pressed into the ground. When his feet touched the ground, Meng Sansheng was able to borrow strength. His feet trembled, and a wave of energy spread across the ground. It is indeed an immortal. Yan Chuan's eyes narrowed. Meng Sansheng was unable to resist? What level is this ghost immortal? Bai Ditian asked in surprise. Human immortal, the lowest level of immortal. I have killed one in my previous life. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Killed an immortal? Feng Yinyang, Bai Ditian, and Lu Jin looked at Yan Chuan in surprise. Was Yan Chuan that strong in his previous life? Yan Chuan continued to explain. Of course, killing a human immortal is not easy. I cannot kill one now. However, once Dejin becomes a heavenly empire, I will not only be able to use the power of providence, but I will also be able to use the power of the nation and the power of the people. Once the heavenly empire is formed, I will be able to use the power of the people. It will not be difficult to kill a human immortal with the power of the nation. The three of them nodded. They did not understand. Your Majesty. Feng Yinyang suddenly narrowed his eyes. What is it? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Look at the will-o'-the-wisp in the grave, isn't it older than before? Feng Yinyang's expression changed. Everyone looked at the ghost flame. Indeed, there were more wrinkles on the ghost flame's body. It even looked thinner. It was as if a gentle breeze could blow it over. Indeed. Yan Chuan nodded. Taking a deep breath, Feng Yinyang's eyes lit up. The ghost fire in the grave sacrificed its lifespan in order to create the reincarnation pool. It must have consumed a lot to capture this ghost immortal from the reincarnation pool. Is it possible? Yan Chuan's expression changed. Feng Yinyang nodded and said, That's right. Perhaps there is a way. Your Majesty, this time we might be able to completely merge the Ghost Valley's branch. Yan Chuan nodded. The four of them stood in the distance, ready to cooperate with Feng Yinyang. At the peak of another mountain, Yao Qianshang and the group of great demons stared into the distance. Yao Qianshang narrowed his eyes. Yao Emperor, that's an immortal. A great Yao said worriedly. The demon emperor said in a low voice, Immortal? So what? In my previous life, I once killed a human immortal. Although that human immortal was suppressed by this world, I still killed him. What I care about is the Hongmeng Gourd. Hongmeng Gourd? The great demons were surprised. Yao Emperor, what about the reincarnation pool? Another great demon asked. Reincarnation pool? Don't you see that the ghost fire in the grave is getting older? From the name, you can guess that it is a treasure that connects to the reincarnation pool. In other words, it is just a reincarnation entrance opened by a feng shui master. That reincarnation entrance is useless to us now because there is no powerful feng shui master who can control it. Even if there is a feng shui master, doesn't the ghost fire's current condition mean that the reincarnation pool is a disaster? Yao Qianshang said calmly. Chapter 969. The Monster Emperor is wise. The great monsters were impressed. Remember, if you have the chance, follow me to get the primordial gourd. Yao Qianshang shouted. Yes. The great monsters replied. Ren Rat and Meng Hongying retreated to the side. An immortal? Oh no, that's an immortal. The sacred master is in trouble. Ren Rat said timidly. No, Grandpa will be fine. Meng Hongying said worriedly. Countless feng shui masters gathered from all directions and watched this scene with excitement. The sect master could even summon an immortal. He was too powerful. In the distance, Meng Sansheng, who was being crushed by the giant mountain, was having a hard time. You dare to disturb my reincarnation? Damn it. The immortal stomped his foot again. Boom. The giant mountain sank again. Meng Sansheng was about to be crushed. Roar. Meng Sansheng roared at the foot of the mountain. For a moment, purple light shone from the foot of the mountain. Bang. Boundless purple light instantly dyed the world purple. Countless cultivators in the surroundings revealed astonished expressions. They saw the giant mountain slowly rising. Meng Sansheng was lifting it up bit by bit. The surrounding cultivators all looked at this scene in shock. How was this possible? An immortal's attack? Although they were far away, everyone felt that it was unstoppable. Meng Sansheng blocked it? The purple light shrouded Meng Sansheng. Meng Sansheng's power could be vaguely seen inside the purple light. The purple Taoist crown slipped down, and Meng Sansheng's long hair fluttered. The primordial gourd left Meng Sansheng's body, and his back suddenly bulged. Boom. The bulge on Meng Sansheng's back suddenly exploded. In an instant, it turned into a pair of giant wings. The endless purple light was instantly sucked back into the wings. Buzz. When the purple light disappeared, people could finally see a pair of purple wings. It was exceptionally dazzling. Meng Sansheng's surroundings became blurry. Apparently the air around him was trembling. A pair of purple wings appeared. Meng Sansheng's pressure was lifted. He held the giant mountain with a ferocious expression. The reincarnation pool? I'm taking it. Ah. Meng Sansheng suddenly laughed. His hand smashed towards the huge mountain. Boom. Meng Sansheng arrived in front of Ghost Immortal in an instant. You're courting death. Ghost Immortal roared. You're the one courting death. Meng Sansheng sneered. A man and an immortal clashed their palms together. Hong? Ghost Immortal's blue light and Meng Sansheng's purple light exploded with a dazzling brilliance. Heaven and earth lost their color in the face of these two colors. Under the dazzling light, the surrounding cultivators could not see what was going on. A ghost immortal who has lost his physical body wants to compete with me? Meng Sansheng roared in the light. Ah. Ghost Immortal's miserable shriek came from within the ball of light. Boom. The light suddenly dispersed, revealing a scene that shocked countless Xiuzha. Meng Sansheng had torn off the arms of that extremely powerful Ghost Immortal? He was incomparably weak from the pain. These weren't the arms of a physical body, but the body of a soul. Immortals had their arms twisted off by mortals? Was Meng Sansheng, who was flapping his wings, immortal? It was as if the immortal no longer had the strength to fight. Treasure, please take it. Meng Sansheng shouted again. Rumble. The primordial gourd madly sucked at Ghost Immortal again. Chapter 970. Ah, bastard. Ghost Immortal screamed in horror. But his arms were instantly sucked into the gourd. Roar. The weak Ghost Immortal fled in horror. But the suction force of the Hong Meng gourd was too strong. Ghost Immortal struggled to escape, but he couldn't escape from the Hong Meng gourd. Ah. Finally, Ghost Immortal couldn't hold on any longer. He screamed and was forcibly sucked into the Hong Meng gourd. Bang. Meng Sansheng closed the Hong Meng gourd. Countless cultivators in the surroundings were at a loss. At this moment, even though there were millions of cultivators around, they were still silent. Immortal? That's an immortal. Was he sucked into the Hong Meng gourd? In the distance, Yao Tianshang looked at the Hong Meng gourd with more enthusiasm. This was a fanaticism. Immortal? Even an immortal could be sucked in? Could it be that after injuring the opponent and making them unable to resist, it could be taken at will? Meng Sansheng grabbed the Hong Meng gourd and shook it gently as if he was refining Ghost Immortal. Not far away, Ninth Rat's eyes were wide open. He looked at Meng Sansheng's current state with a blank expression. Wings on his back? Refining an immortal? How strong is Meng Sansheng? 3 times, still 3 times. Meng Sansheng gently opened the gourd. Suddenly, more Hong Meng purple chi than before appeared and was sucked into Meng Sansheng's stomach. Was the immortal already refined? Countless cultivators in all directions were horrified. Meng Sansheng was too terrifying. Feng Yinyang was slightly worried, but Yen Chuan's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light. Because Yen Chuan was more far-sighted. The stronger Meng Sansheng was, the more desperate Grave Ghost Flame would be. It would lay a stronger foundation for Feng Yinyang to obtain the other half of Ghost Valley's inheritance. In the distance, Meng Sansheng stood high in the sky again, looking down with a pair of giant purple wings. Grave Ghost Flame, give me the reincarnation pool, Meng Sanxing said coldly. At this moment, Meng Sanxing was the only one in the whole place. It seemed that no one could stop him. Below, above the reincarnation pool, the ghost flame shook his head. Meng Sanxing, you should know that in order to refine the reincarnation pool, I reversed the flow of my lifespan. My lifespan and the reincarnation pool are one. Giving you the reincarnation pool is the same as giving you my life. Do you think it's possible? I'm already here today. Even if you're an immortal, I'll still refine it. The Grand Mist Violet Qi refined by an immortal will allow me to reach my peak state. You can't stop me, Meng Sanxing shouted. At this moment, the ghost fire in the grave suddenly aged once more. Its originally silver-white hair had now turned white. A large amount of hair fell out and his body became thinner. More and more wrinkles appeared and even a few of his teeth suddenly fell out. The grave ghost flame said in a hoarse voice, "Human immortal, you can stop it. Let's see how a Xian immortal can stop it." Rumble. The entire reincarnation pool was like boiling water. In an instant there was an uproar. It had to be known that when the ghost immortal appeared, it was merely a ripple. Now the entire pool was boiling. A towering aura was emitted from the reincarnation pool. As soon as the powerful aura was released, countless cultivators in the surroundings were suppressed to the point that they curled up on the ground. Just this suppression alone was enough to make countless cultivators unable to bear it. A pair of huge black dragon horns slowly emerged from the reincarnation pool. As soon as the dragon horns appeared, the surroundings were immediately filled with black qi. The dragon horns continued to rise and gradually, a huge dragon head slowly emerged from the reincarnation pool. Chapter 971. The surrounding void trembled violently. Once the berserk aura of a Xian immortal was released, it immediately forced countless practitioners to fall to the ground. The powerful pressure made countless practitioners unable to breathe for a moment. Immortal? Is this the power of an immortal? Countless cultivators roared in their hearts. Facing this aura, many Xiozhi suddenly felt that they were like ants. A huge black dragon head slowly rushed out of the reincarnation pool. This time it was different from before. It had a physical body. However, this was a blind dragon. Roar. The blind dragon roared and waved its tail. Its body drilled out of the reincarnation pool. Boom. Coiling in the air, a domineering aura spread out. Who is it? The blind dragon roared. It's him. Meng Sanxing, tear him to pieces. The ghost flame in the grave yelled weakly. Roar. The blind dragon charged at Meng Sanxing. Meng Sanxing's face darkened. He struck out with his palm and a huge palm print appeared in the air. Boom. The blind dragon angrily roared and slammed into Meng Sanxing. It soared into the sky with a loud bang. Bastard. Meng Sanxing's face changed. This was the first time Meng Sanxing lost his composure. Meng Sanxing still had some strength when facing a human immortal, but now, it was a profound immortal with a physical body. Meng Sanxing was forced to retreat. This is a corpse dragon. Feng Yinyang's face darkened. Corpse dragon? Lu Jin didn't understand. There are volcanoes in the world of the living and springs in the world of the underworld. They are filled with extreme yin and death qi. If a cultivator's physical body falls in, it will quickly freeze into powder. However, there are exceptions. They can absorb the power of the springs and come back to life. However, when they come back to life they will be in the form of a zombie. Moreover, all of them are king zombies. Feng Yinyang explained. King zombies? You're saying that this corpse dragon died a long time ago and was revived by the springs? Lu Jin was shocked. Yin Chuan didn't care about the corpse dragon. Instead, he stared at the reincarnation pool in the distance. Feng Yinyang, get ready. Yin Chuan shouted. Feng Yinyang's expression changed as he nodded. Ong. Ong. The corpse dragon soared into the sky and its explosive power smashed into Meng Sanxing. The huge collision caused the surrounding space to explode and a storm to rise. The earth trembled as the two collided. Countless feng shui masters looked up at the sky in admiration. That was a Xian immortal. It was summoned by the sect leader. It was an existence that could only be achieved after transcending the tribulation at the 10th level of the upper void stage. But now he was working for the sect leader? Yao Tianshang glanced at the ghost fire in the distance and immediately confirmed his thoughts. Returning to the pool would consume a lot of his lifespan. Even if he took it, it wouldn't be of much use. However, the Hongmeng gourd was different. Demon Emperor, what do we do now? A great demon asked with a hint of joy. Meng Sanxing has finally met his match. Ah, let's wait. Yao Tianshang's eyes glowed. But Ren Rat and Meng Hongying kept retreating. Xian Immortal? How can the ghost fire summon such an existence? Ren Rat said in fear. The surface of the reincarnation pool slowly calmed down. To the ghost fire, summoning the Xian Immortal and giving it a command was enough. Whoosh! All of a sudden 4 figures shot over. In an instant, 4 figures appeared in front of the reincarnation pool. Feng Yinyang, Yen Chuan, Lu Jin, and Bai Ditian all looked at the ghost fire with a serious expression. The ghost fire narrowed its eyes and stared at Feng Yinyang. Chapter 972. Li Kanglin passed it to you? The grave asked in a hoarse voice. Sect Master Nan Feng Yinyang greets the Northern Sect Master. Feng Yinyang took a deep breath and said, I met Li Kanglin 100 years ago. I didn't expect him to pass it to you in just 100 years. I saw how you controlled the 100 dragons. It's incredible that you can develop the Ghost Valley to this extent in just 100 years. The grave said in a low voice. Feng Yinyang didn't want to take advantage of others. I believe that one day, I will be able to take back the Northern Sect's inheritance and unite the Ghost Valley. However, the world has changed and the immortals are no longer restricted. In fact, immortals from the immortal world will enter this world one after another. At that time, if the Ghost Valley's enemies come, we won't be able to unite the Ghost Valley. If we lose one, our lineage will be broken. We can only offend them this time. Feng Yinyang took a deep breath and said. The grave smiled at Feng Yinyang. If you want it, come. The grave smiled. As the grave spoke, it slowly sank into the reincarnation pool. Feng Yinyang's face darkened. Your Majesty, follow me. Feng Yinyang shouted. Okay. The 4 of them immediately flew to the reincarnation pool and jumped in together. Plop. As if they had fallen into water, they sank into the pool. Yen Chuan's actions also attracted the attention of the surrounding experts. Yao Tianshang narrowed his eyes. Demon Emperor Yen Chuan and Bai Ditian are chasing after the grave, a great demon said worriedly. Yao Tianshang sneered and said, that's for the best. They won't disturb us. Yao Tianshang didn't care. However, the Feng Shui masters didn't think so. Oh no, it's Feng Yinyang from the South Sect. They are chasing after the Sect Master? The South Sect wants to snatch the Sect Master's inheritance? Quick, protect the Sect Master. Jiaohu came from all directions. A large number of Feng Shui masters quickly gathered and jumped into the reincarnation pool. Once they entered the reincarnation pool, Yen Chuan and the others felt as if they were in the depths of the universe. Not far away was a huge blue hole. Inside the hole, circles of blue light were spinning crazily. Within the blue light, there seemed to be different figures appearing and disappearing from time to time. The grave stood in front of the whole lord and looked at the 4 of them. Your Majesty, that's the reincarnation passage. Don't go in there. The pressure of the reincarnation passage can turn even a human immortal into dust. Feng Yinyang said. Yes. Yen Chuan nodded. The grave will. The wisp looked at Feng Yinyang and said, you want my inheritance? I'll give you a chance. The Ghost Valley Spirit Realm? Yainin in the end, he said. The reincarnation pool. And? Ass. He closed his eyes and placed his hands on his knees. Feng Yinyang took a deep breath and said, Your Majesty, the Ghost Valley Spirit Realm is a fighting technique of the Ghost Valley. It's a battle in the realm of mind. There's no concept of time there. I might wake up in a few breaths or it might take a few days. Your Majesty, please protect me and ensure that my body won't be hurt. Okay. Yen Chuan nodded. By the way, Your Majesty, don't get within 30 meters of the ghost fire because the reincarnation passage will take you in. The reason he can sit there is because he has the reincarnation pool so no one can touch his body. Feng Yinyang warned. Okay. Yen Chuan nodded. Chapter 973. In the void, Feng Yinyang and Ghostfire sat cross-legged and slowly closed their eyes. Buzz. Both of their bodies trembled slightly. Then they fell into a long silence. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, a large number of Feng Shui masters rushed into the reincarnation pool and appeared in the void. Countless Feng Shui masters looked around in confusion. Then a Feng Shui master flew toward Ghostfire. Sect Master, are you all right? That person quickly approached. However, a suction force came from behind Ghostfire, and that person screamed as he was sucked into the reincarnation passage. Whoosh. That person disappeared without a trace. Countless feng shui masters froze and did not dare to move forward. As for Yan Chuan's group, seeing that Ghostfire was fine, no one dared to cause trouble. After all, the clash between Bai Ditian and Meng Sanxing was deeply engraved in everyone's minds. Yan Chuan, Lu Jin and Bai Ditian protected Feng Yinyang and did not move. At this moment, Ghostfire's body trembled slightly, and a soul slowly emerged from Ghostfire's body. Kik. That wisp of soul let out a sinister and evil laugh. Sect Master, are you all right? A feng shui master asked with concern. The wisp of soul was still connected to the will, the wisp in the grave. Kik, Ghostfire, you have some tricks up your sleeve. As expected of a descendant of my Mu clan. I destroyed your fate, but you still managed to escape here and achieve what you have today? The reincarnation passage? You can actually open the reincarnation passage? The wisp of soul laughed evilly in surprise. That soul is not Ghostfire? Lu Jin's expression changed. Mu clan? This is a clan? Yan Chuan's expression darkened. The wisp of soul that emerged from the grave will-o-wisp looked around and finally looked at Feng Yinyang. Kik, you actually established a consciousness passage with someone else? Through the bloodline of the Mu clan I can't harm you, but as long as I kill him, your consciousness will be destroyed along with him. Ahaha, reincarnation passage? You're really making things easy for me. The soul laughed evilly. Then the soul waved at the reincarnation passage. Roar. A green dragon soul rushed out of the reincarnation passage and charged towards Feng Yinyang. Boom. Lu Jin punched out and immediately scattered the soul. Oh, Immortal? Ah. The soul said disdainfully. He continued to wave his hand. Rumble. In an instant, a large number of Yin souls rushed out of the reincarnation passage and pounced on Feng Yinyang. Roar. 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 The divine souls of humans, demons and dragons were summoned. A large number of divine souls that had been reincarnated were summoned and rushed towards Yan Chuan and the others. Boom. 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 Lu Jin flicked her horsetail whisk and quickly fought against the souls that came one after another. But more and more divine souls appeared. Kik, at the entrance of the reincarnation passage, I can have as many reincarnated divine souls as I want. Let's see how long you can last. The Mu clan laughed evilly. Then, a large number of souls poured out of the reincarnation passage. Your Majesty, these souls are in a chaotic state. Although they are not as strong as immortals, they are quite extraordinary. The old slave can't hold on much longer. Lu Jin exclaimed. Let me. Bai Ditian stepped forward. Chapter 974. No, his souls are endless. It's useless even if you come. Let me do it. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Ah. Bai Ditian looked at Yan Chuan in confusion. Protect Feng Yinyang well. Yan Chuan instructed and stepped forward. Yan Chuan reached out with his right hand and said, Stellar Cycle. Whoosh. A strange energy suddenly appeared around Yan Chuan. This energy instantly locked onto the 36 souls and pulled them. The souls immediately began to revolve according to a specific trajectory like the rotation of the stars. The souls seemed to have lost their sense of purpose and began to revolve according to the trajectory. Then they began to attack the other soul. He's controlling the souls that I've enslaved to deal with me? Mu Shi's soul said in surprise. Rumble. The number of god souls around Yan Chuan quickly increased from 36 to 360, and then to 3,600. More and more souls began to revolve around Yan Chuan. It was as if Yan Chuan had become the center of the universe. Countless stars in the universe were revolving around him rapidly. Rumble. Under Yan Chuan's stellar cycle, more and more souls were being controlled. They swept towards the other side like a storm. Mu Shi's soul could continuously summon souls, but Yan Chuan's control was faster than his. In an instant, the battle became a stalemate. How is this possible? Who are you? How can a mortal have such a profound cultivation technique? What cultivation technique is this? Mu Shi exclaimed. Within the storm of souls, Yan Chuan smiled coldly and ignored him. Rumble. The surging souls began to flow back and collided with Mu Shi's soul again and again. It caused great damage to his soul. Bastard. Mu Shi shouted coldly. Yan Chuan ignored him, paying him back in his own coin. Every soul that came out would flow back. It was much more brilliant than Lu Jin's destruction. About 2 hours later. Buzz. Feng Yinyang and the grave ghost flame trembled. The two of them slowly opened their eyes. Grave phosphorescent bones? You actually chased me all the way here. Since that's the case, go back to reincarnation. Boom. Musher's soul was instantly pushed into the reincarnation passage. Bastard, bastard will, the wisp. I will come back for you. Musher's soul roared, but in the blink of an eye, it was drowned in the reincarnation passageway. With a wave of Yan Chuan's hand, the rolling souls also entered the reincarnation passage. Only then did the grave ghost fire look at Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang? Who would have thought that in the 100,000 years in the consciousness world, your soul would awaken more and more? Who would have thought that you're actually the reincarnation of our lineage's progenitor? The ghost flame in the grave suddenly spoke. After reincarnating for 10,000 lifetimes, you actually returned. You are Gui Guzi? The ghostly flame in the grave narrowed its eyes. Gui Guzi? Feng Yinyang asked in confusion. Don't you feel more and more familiar with the Gui Gu lineage's spells? The ghost flame in the grave said in a deep voice. That's right. Feng Yinyang nodded. You haven't recovered your memories from your previous life, so naturally you don't know. Others might not know who Gui Guzi is, but I, Musher, know. Who would have thought that it would be you? Haha, Gui Gu's inheritance, I'll return it to you. The ghost flame in the grave suddenly laughed. As it spoke, the ghost flame in the grave took out a black jade token. However, it was only half of a jade token. Sect Master, you can't. The northern sect disciples exclaimed. How could this be passed to the southern sect? Their eyes were filled with greed. If the sect master wanted to pass it down, he could pass it to the northern sect disciples. The ghost flame in the grave glanced coldly at the crowd. Humph. The northern sect disciples immediately fell silent. I'll give it to whoever I want, it's not up to you. The ghost flame in the grave said coldly. Yes. The northern sect disciples nodded gloomily. The jade token flew towards Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang actually took out the other half of the jade token. When the two pieces touched, they actually merged into one. You're giving it to me just like that? Feng Yinyang exclaimed. It's a long story, haha, you don't need to know for now. Anyway, it's because of Gui Gu's inheritance that I was able to fix my fate. Consider it as me owing Gui Gu's lineage. Now I'm returning it to its rightful owner. The reason why I can refine the reincarnation pool is not because I have a deeper understanding of Gui Gu's inheritance. On the contrary, I can't study Gui Gu's inheritance at all. This inheritance can only be comprehended by Gui Guzi himself. The reason why I can open the reincarnation pool is because of my Musher clan's talent. The reason why I open the reincarnation pool in this reincarnation passage is actually to enter the reincarnation cycle and reincarnate into the life form I want. The ghost flame in the grave laughed. You want to reincarnate? Feng Yinyang exclaimed. You don't understand the Musher clan. Don't worry about me. Our clan grows through reincarnation. We like to reincarnate. In reincarnation we can obtain power. The ghost flame in the grave laughed. Northern sect disciples, listen up. From now on, Feng Yinyang is the northern sect master. All feng shui masters listen to my orders. The ghost flame in the grave gave the final order. Yes. Countless feng shui masters said blankly. The ghost flame in the grave stood up. Looking at everyone, he finally looked at Feng Yinyang and said, if possible, we'll meet again in the immortal world. Whoosh. The ghost flame in the grave jumped into the reincarnation cycle. The entrance of the reincarnation passage suddenly shrank until it disappeared. Rumble. The void was slowly collapsing as well. Everyone returned to the outside world. The reincarnation pool from before also collapsed after the ghost flame in the grave reincarnated. Everyone was at a loss. The ghost flame in the grave reincarnated? Feng Yinyang became the northern sect master in the blink of an eye? Feng Yinyang grabbed the complete jade token. The Ghost Valley's branch could be considered to have officially merged. Feng Yinyang himself was also at a loss. Gui Guzi? The reincarnation of the ancestor of the Ghost Valley clan? Is that true? Yan Chuan and the others also frowned. They were surprised by Feng Yinyang. At the same time, they were also surprised by the ghost flame in the grave. Musher clan? Growing through reincarnation? No wonder he didn't care about his lifespan. What kind of strange clan was this? After reincarnation, didn't they become another person? How did the clan continue? How could they still be called the Musher clan? It seems that my understanding of the immortal world is still too little. Yan Chuan finally could not help but sigh. However, in general, Yan Chuan's harvest this time was enough. Feng Yinyang finally took back the complete inheritance of the Ghost Valley clan. Feng Yinyang also quickly put away his inheritance. Greetings, Sect Master. A group of feng shui masters respectfully said. A group of feng shui masters remembered the ghost flame's last words. Ancestor? All the feng shui masters looked at Feng Yinyang eagerly. And? Feng Yinyang nodded. He recognized a large number of feng shui masters. He took over the entire northern sect. Congratulations, Mr. Feng. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Same to you. Feng Yinyang nodded. At this moment he was in a good mood. Chapter 975. Atlas Studios by Ditian. What are you doing? Yao Tianshang shouted from afar. By Ditian? Meng Sansheng was shocked. Meng Sansheng is the grandfather of the Empress of Great Zhen. I am here on the orders of Great Zhen to save Meng Sansheng. Bai Ditian immediately made his intentions clear. Boom. Bai Ditian struck out with his palm, causing the void to tremble. The two of them, who were originally glued to each other, suddenly separated. The group of great demons surrounded Yao Tianshang. Meng Sansheng was panting as he looked at Yao Tianshang coldly. Bai Ditian was in the middle of them, and the three of them formed a triangle as they looked at each other coldly. Bai Ditian had saved Meng Sansheng, but Meng Sansheng was not grateful to Bai Ditian. He knew how precious the primordial gourd was, and he was also worried that Bai Ditian was here to snatch it. Swish. Yin Chuan, Lu Jin, Feng Yinyang, Meng Hongying and Ninth Rat immediately flew over. The group of great demons also flew behind Yao Tianshang. Grandfather. Meng Hongying flew over worriedly. Saint Lord. Ninth Rat also flew over. Bai Ditian slowly retreated behind Yen Chuan. At this moment, Meng Sansheng looked at Yen Chuan seriously. At the same time he understood that not only had he misjudged Yao Tianshang, but he had misjudged Yen Chuan as well. Yen Chuan, what are you trying to do? Yao Tianshang narrowed his eyes and asked in a low voice. Yen Chuan smiled and said in a deep voice, My wife ZZ. Although Meng Sansheng did not take care of ZZ in the past, he is still ZZ's grandfather. I have to interfere. Interfere? I think you are also interested in his primordial gourd. Don't tell me you have not thought about it? Yao Tianshang laughed coldly. Meng Sansheng narrowed his eyes. Who doesn't like treasures in the world? However, I am different from you. There are some things that can be done and some things that cannot be done. Meng Sansheng, if you are willing to stay, I will help you to chase Yao Tianshang away. If you are not willing to stay, then leave. I will help you to stop Yao Tianshang. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Yao Tianshang's face. Yin did not want to obtain the primordial gourd. Meng Sansheng looked at Yen Chuan in surprise. But Meng Sansheng still took a deep breath and said, Then I'll be leaving first. See you Xia Meng Tian Meng. Meng Sansheng looked at Yen Chuan with a complicated expression. Hongying Ninth Rat, let's go. Meng Sansheng swung the grand mist gourd, stepped on it and quickly flew away. Meng's Meng Yao 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 Yao. Who? Yen Chuan and the others immediately stood in front of Yao Tianshang. Demon Yao Shin Tian 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 Meng Yu Tian Tian Shin Tian Ming Ming. Bai Ditian, Lu Jin and Feng Yinyang were all accumulating their power and waiting for Yen Chuan's command. Yao Tianshang stared at Yen Chuan. His eyes flashed with irritation. All the great beasts gathered their auras. Once Yao Tianshang gave the order, they would attack. The two sides looked at each other. Their battle intent soared, but no one took a step forward. Meng Sansheng, who had flown far away, turned around. When he saw Yen Chuan blocking in front of Yao Tianshang, he raised his eyebrows. Although Meng Sansheng was confused, he did not stop. His injuries from fighting a mystic immortal were too severe. He had to go back and recuperate. Yen Chuan and Yao Tianshang looked at each other coldly. Yao Tianshang could tell that Yen Chuan was determined to stop him. Did he really not want the primordial gourd? The great beasts behind him were getting stronger. They were waiting for Yao Tianshang's order. Yen Chuan? The first time I fought with the ancient moon holy child in sound technique, you ruined it. I knew you were extraordinary, but today I realized that I still underestimated you. You didn't even move in the face of such a precious treasure. Yao Tianshang said with a dark expression. I said that he is my wife's ancestor. Yen Chuan said in a low voice. Yao Tianshang smiled coldly. Your wife's ancestor? Do you think I will believe you? You don't care about the primordial gourd. This means that you have greater ambitions. You are only so bold because of your greater ambitions. Thank you. You flatter me. Yen Chuan said casually. You know very well whether you flatter me or not. Let's go. Yao Tianshang said coldly. The demon emperor is leaving just like that? All the great beasts were shocked. However, Yao Tianshang did not care. He waved his sleeves and walked away. When the group of great demons saw this, they glared at Yan Chuan angrily before leaving with Yao Tianshang. Why did Yao Tianshang leave just like that? Lu Jin was confused. A battle without benefits is the stupidest battle. Moreover, we still have to go to the archaic mysteries sect. Yao Tianshang does not want to suffer any injuries here. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and explained. Lu Jin nodded. She finally understood. Watching the two parties leave, Yan Chuan's heart was at ease. In this battle, it seemed like he was the only one who benefited. Feng Yinyang, since you have become the leader of the northern sect, move the northern sect back to Great Zhen as soon as possible. Yan Chuan looked at Feng Yinyang and said, Yes. I just wanted to say that I have just received the Phantom Valley's inheritance and need some time to cultivate. I might not be able to follow your majesty to the archaic mysteries sect. Feng Yinyang sighed. Since that is the case, you can stay here. After you control the northern sect, you can return to Great Zhen. Yan Chuan looked at Feng Yinyang and said, Yes. Feng Yinyang replied. Let's go. Yan Chuan said. Bai Ditian and Lu Jin nodded. The three of them flew towards the north again. Above the blue sky, Meng Sanxing flew quickly with Ren Rat and Meng Hongying. Meng Sanxing sat on the Hong Meng gourd and meditated for a while before opening his eyes. Grandfather, are we still going to the archaic mysteries sect? Meng Hongying asked. No. I am too tired from the battle with the Shen Immortal. I need to return to the divine world to recuperate. Meng Sanxing said. Holy Lord is right. What is the archaic mysteries sect? Holy Lord is someone who can kill Shen Immortals. Once Jing Ting leaves, Holy Lord will be the strongest in the mortal realm. That Yao Qianshang took advantage of the situation. Ren Rat complained. Meng Sanxing frowned and thought for a while before saying, Archaic mysteries sect? This time all the heroes of the world have gathered. Ninth Rat, go and take a look for me. Me? Ren Rat exclaimed. He looked unwilling. Yes, you? Meng Sanxing's face darkened. Okay. Ren Rat said gloomily. Swish. Meng Sanxing threw Ren Rat out. Meng Sanxing quickly left with Meng Hongying, leaving Ren Rat to look into the distance. Seeing Meng Sanxing leave, Ren Rat said sadly, Why was I so stupid to agree to join the archaic mysteries sect for 1,000 years? I was so happy in the past. I dug up other people's ancestral graves, stole their treasuries and destroyed their descendants. Now, for the sake of the archaic mysteries sect, I have to rush to my death. Alas, I only have one life. Ren Rat shook his head and sighed. Forget it. I don't have many years left. Once the time is up, I will be free. When that time comes, I will return to the immortal world. Damn it, I found an ancient great god's grave last time. I hope no one finds it. Chapter 976. Atlas Studios North Divine Continent. Yan Chuan, Lu Jin, and Bai Ditian landed on the peak of a mountain. In front of them was a thick fog that covered an extremely wide area. The fog had many colors: purple, white, green, and green. It made the sea of fog look extremely dazzling and colorful. This is the archaic mysteries sect? Lu Jin frowned and asked. Don't underestimate this sea of fog. It is actually an extremely powerful fate array. Bai Ditian explained. Fate array? Lu Jin didn't understand. 1 is fate, 2 is fate, 3 is feng shui for his own virtue, and 5 is merit. The archaic mysteries sect cultivates fate. It is said that they have a deep understanding of fate. Their array can even directly connect to fate. Their array is known as the fate array. The archaic mysteries sect is the only sect in the world that cultivates fate. Their requirements for selecting disciples are even stricter than feng shui masters. Feng shui masters only look at the conditions of the current life, but fate cultivators have to compete for 3 lifetimes. They have to have a specific birthday and a specific bone structure. Not a single one can be missing. Bai Ditian explained. Compete for 3 lifetimes? Lu Jin was shocked. Of course, no one is so powerful that they can predict the past. However, legend has it that there is a world tree in the celestial world. The world tree has existed since the world was formed. The world tree has experienced everything in the world and also recorded everything in the world. Fate cultivators only need to borrow a branch from the world tree to predict many things in the past. Every disciple that cultivates fate cultivators are selected through the world tree's branches. Bai Ditian explained. World tree. Lu Jin was shocked. Can the world tree really predict the past life? Yan Chuan looked at Bai Ditian. Bai Ditian nodded and said, yes. In my previous life I met the sect leader of the Archaic Mysteries sect. By chance he helped me predict some things. Although it wasn't comprehensive, it still benefited me greatly. The Archaic Mysteries sect has a branch from the world tree? Yan Chuan was shocked. Even in his previous life he had only heard about it. It was said that in the celestial world, the world tree was protected by all the heroes of the world. Anyone who dared to break its branches would be punished by all the celestial world. Yes, the Celestial Arcanum sect has one. However, I have to hold it with my hand before it can help me deduce the future. This is the Celestial Arcanum sect's sect head's token of inheritance. It is the Celestial Arcanum sect's most important treasure. It can help me deduce the situation in my previous life. Bai Ditian nodded with certainty. Furthermore, Bai Ditian condensed his dermic powers, and an illusion appeared in Bai Ditian's palm. It was a yellow wooden stake that was as thick as an arm. It was filled with runes. Yan Chuan and Lu Jin widened their eyes in bewilderment. This is the branch of the world tree, the number one treasure of the Celestial Arcanum sect. Bai Ditian said proudly. Yan Chuan and Lu Jin were still at a loss. Is this the branch of the world tree? Yan Chuan asked with a strange tone. Yeah. I can't be wrong. It's the Celestial Arcanum sect head's keepsake. Bai Ditian nodded with certainty. Yan Chuan and Lu Jin were silent for a while. Everyone was silent. Your Majesty, what's wrong? Bai Ditian asked in confusion. Finally, Yan Chuan nodded at Lu Jin. Lu Jin casually took out a yellow wooden stake from her interspatial artifact. The runes on the wooden stake were exactly the same as the one that Bai Ditian had condensed using his dermic powers. Bai Ditian? Was too fake. Bai Ditian really wanted to say that it was fake. However, in this short moment, there was no time for Lu Jin to make a fake. It was exactly the same. The number one treasure of the Celestial Arcanum sect? The branch of the world tree? Why was it in Lu Jin's hands? How was this possible? Chapter 977. Bai Ditian felt honored that he was the only person who had seen the branch of the world tree. But now Lu Jin took one out like a radish. How can this be? How did this come about? Bai Ditian exclaimed. One of the things my parents left behind for me. Yan Chuan explained. Things left behind? Back then Yan Tao had left behind 3 things for Yan Chuan. One was a map, which allowed him to find the Holy Light Stone and forge the God Sword. Now the second thing was the Celestial Mysteries sect leader's token? Things left behind? Bai Ditian was slightly confused. Was this a joke? The Celestial Mysteries sect leader's token was the lifeblood of the Celestial Mysteries sect. How could it be in Yan Tao's hands? Looking at Bai Ditian's complicated gaze, Yan Chuan said, Lu Jin, let Bai Ditian take a look. It's nothing much. Lu Jin handed it over. Bai Ditian received it carefully, his entire body petrified. Amidst the endless colorful fog, there was a huge palace. Inside the palace, a white-haired elder sat cross-legged as if he was in seclusion. Suddenly, the elder raised his eyebrows and opened his eyes, revealing an extremely shocked expression. Whoosh! The elder suddenly stood up. Quang! The door to the palace opened. Another 3 white-haired elders hurried in. Senior brother, can you feel it? The 3 old men asked excitedly. That's right. It's the Celestial Mysteries sect leader's token. The previous sect leader had fallen, and the whereabouts of our World Tree branch were unknown. We sent so many people to search for it and calculated for so many years, but to no avail. It actually appeared near our Celestial Mysteries sect? Let's go, let's go. The leading elder rushed out of the palace excitedly. The other 3 elders also rushed out excitedly and flew into the depths of the fog. At this moment, not only did the 4 elders feel it, but about 100 people in the Celestial Mysteries sect also felt it. They all flew into the sky excitedly, including Heavenly Lady Zhaoafeng. Bai Ditian grabbed the World Tree's branch and inspected it in a daze. Lu Jin looked at Yan Chuan and said, Your Majesty, aren't we here too early? There are still a few months before it starts. Yan Chuan shook his head lightly and said, It's not early. We still have things to do. Yes. Lu Jin nodded. After saying that, the 2 of them looked at Bai Ditian. Bai Ditian, how is it? Is this true? Yan Chuan asked. It's true, it's definitely true. Bai Ditian said in confusion. As long as it's a branch of the world tree. Yan Chuan smiled. Boom. Suddenly, the fog not far away shook, and in the blink of an eye, over 100 figures suddenly appeared in front of Yan Chuan's group. Almost everyone turned their gazes to Bai Ditian's hands after looking at the three of them for a while. Is it really a world branch? The leading old man asked excitedly. The group of elders at the front looked very excited. It was as if they couldn't wait to snatch it. Bai Ditian's expression changed and he immediately kept the world branch. Bai Ditian knew that this was definitely the Celestial Mystery Sect's token, but he wasn't a good person. Now this world branch belonged to Yan Chuan. Naturally he had to protect it well. However, Yan Chuan looked at Heavenly Lady Zhaofeng. He was very excited. Bai Ditian? Long time no see. The leading old man immediately smiled politely. Bai Ditian smiled and said, "Greetings to the Celestial Mystery Sect leader." Bai Ditian, in your hand? The leading old man said excitedly, but he was interrupted by Bai Ditian. Chapter 978. This item in my hand belongs to him. It's the private property of the great Qin Emperor. Bai Ditian said immediately. The moment Bai Ditian said this, the leading elder instantly understood and immediately looked at Yan Chuan. I'm the current sect master of the Archaic Mystery Sect, Yun Xn. Greetings, Yan Di. The old man said politely. Clearly he had seen Yan Chuan's portrait and recognized him immediately. I've heard a lot about the Archaic Mystery Sect. Sect Master Yun, you're too polite. Yan Chuan smiled. The old man smiled and asked, Yan Di, where did you get the item in Bai Ditian's hand? Yan Chuan looked at the world branch and smiled. It's something my father left behind. Left behind? The Archaic Mystery Sect disciples frowned. How did your father get this item? Yun Xian asked again. My father picked it up and brought it here. Yan Chuan smiled. Picked it up? Yun Xian and the others frowned again. How were they supposed to continue asking? Yan Chuan obviously wouldn't tell them the truth. Seeing how troubled they were, Yan Chuan smiled. Yan Di, this item is called the World Branch. It's a keepsake of the sect master of the Archaic Mysteries sect. It belonged to the previous sect master Yun Yi. Yun Xian said immediately. Sect master Yun, you've misunderstood. It's mine, not the Archaic Mysteries sect's. Yan Chuan interrupted. How dare you? That belongs to the Archaic Mysteries sect. You thieves. The disciples behind Yun Xian shouted angrily. Yan Chuan's face turned cold. Yun Xian waved her hand and stopped them from shouting. She turned around and said, Yan Di, please don't blame me for not disciplining them well. Only then did Yan Chuan's expression soften. Yan Di, only fate stealers like us can use this item. Others can't use it at all. Yun Xian said again. Yan Chuan smiled. I like collecting. Sect Master Yun, please don't think about it. Don't think about it? How was that possible? Yan Di, this is indeed the world branch of my Archaic Mysteries sect. Bai Ditian can testify. It was accidentally lost by the previous Celestial Arcanum sect head. The old man smiled bitterly. Yan Chuan nodded his head and said, I understand and I also believe in it. However, the Celestial Arcanum sect was lost in the end. It's like you accidentally found an immortal equipment in a desolate mountain forest. Would you find the descendant of the owner of the immortal equipment and give it to him? Are all of you so noble? Everyone? Yun Xen smiled bitterly. Yama Emperor, this world's branch is extremely important to my Heaven's Mysteries sect, so please accept it. Of course, if there's anything you need, as long as it doesn't go against the beliefs and principles of my Heaven's Mysteries sect, we will do our best to satisfy you. Everyone looked at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan was silent for a moment. Finally, he took a deep breath and nodded. It's not that I can't give the world branch to the Archaic Arcanum sect, but as long as you agree to my two conditions, I'll give you the world branch with both hands. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and said. Everyone was overjoyed. There's one thing I have to ask for your forgiveness. My Heaven's God creation plan cannot be compromised because of this. Yun Xian said with a frown. Don't worry, I won't go against your beliefs and principles. Yan Chuan nodded. Yan Di is righteous. Yun Xian smiled. First, I hope that before the God creation plan starts, I can stay near the Heavenly Lady and have her sit and discuss the Tao with me for a few months. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Sit and discuss the Tao? Everyone looked at Yan Chuan in confusion. Yes, I won't harass the Heavenly Lady. I just want her to listen to some stories. Even if it's just for 2 hours a day, it's fine. Yan Chuan looked at the Heavenly Lady and said. Stories? The Fate Usurpers. Chapter 979. Tell stories? The fate usurpers looked at Yen Chuan blankly. What kind of condition was that? Listen to your stories for a few months? The fate usurpers became excited again. Then they looked at Zhaofeng. Holy Maiden, the branch of the world is no small matter. You know that even in the immortal world, our archaic arcanum sect only has a few branches. Yun Xen looked at Zhaofeng expectantly. Zhaofeng was silent for a while, then finally nodded under everyone's expectant gaze. All right, thank you, Holy Maiden. Yun Xen said excitedly. Yen Chuan, on the other hand, smiled in satisfaction. Yen Di, the Holy Maiden has already agreed to the first condition. Tell us the second one. Yun Xen said again. I haven't thought of the second condition yet. Can you let me think about it? Yen Chuan smiled. Oh. The fate usurpers raised their eyebrows. Of course, before the God creation plan starts, I will definitely say it. And at that time, I will hand over the branch of the world with both hands. Yen Chuan smiled. The fate usurpers frowned. In the end they nodded. Several days later. In the sea of fog. In an extremely exquisite pavilion. On a balcony of the pavilion. Several maids were waiting on a jade table in the center. Yen Chuan and Zhaofeng were drinking tea. Yen Di, I've already said that I'm not Jinro, and I've also gained enlightenment about my previous life. I know who my previous life was and I'm definitely not Jinro. Zhaofeng said as he drank tea. Yen Chuan smiled and said, do you know, although you can't see, your clear appearance is exactly the same as Jinro's back then. Zhaofeng frowned. Don't worry, I won't force you to admit it. I just want to tell you how I met Jinro during this time. Yen Chuan smiled. Only then did Zhaofeng relax. Do I look like Jinro? Zhaofeng asked curiously. Dongfang Jingpai has already told me that you used mind reading on me, right? Yen Chuan smiled. Zhaofeng frowned. Apparently he did not expect Dongfang Jingpai to betray him. But in the end he nodded and said, that's right. That day I saw that you were chasing me in a hurry and spread news about me everywhere. So I came back to find you. But at that time, you were already unconscious, so I had no choice. Seeing Zhaofeng's guilt, Yen Chuan did not blame him. If you can see Jinro's appearance in my heart, then you will know that your appearance is exactly the same. Even the number and position of your eyebrows are exactly the same. Is there really such a thing in the world? Zhaofeng asked in surprise. Zhaofeng didn't believe that she was Jinro, but Yen Chuan firmly believed that she was Jinro. As the two of them chatted, Yen Chuan began to describe everything about Jinro from the beginning. Just like that, Yen Chuan began to talk about everything about Jinro every day. Every day he would talk about different things. It was as if as long as Yen Chuan spoke, there would be endless stories. East Divine Continent, Julu Academy. At the entrance to the Radiant World. Meng Lingtian looked at the blue-robed man in front of him. Sima Yuntian. It was Sima Yuntian, who had competed with Yen Chuan in the investiture of the gods during the Heavenly Bestowment Conference. At this moment, 72 disciples stood behind Sima Yuntian. Compared to decades ago, each of them was much more refined, and their auras were much more stable. Sima Yuntian was still as heroic as before. Just this aura alone was like a sharp blade that could cut through all obstacles. He was incomparably domineering as he coldly looked at Meng Lingtian. Chapter 980. Dongfang Jingpai stood at the side. Old Meng, I found Sima Yuntian. Ah, Old Meng, don't stop me now. Dongfang Jingpai said excitedly. Meng Lingtian looked at Dongfang Jingpai and smiled bitterly. Finally he nodded. Forget it. Rottenwood can't be carved. I won't care about you anymore. Old Meng, today I realize that you are really too kind. Your words are like the sun, warming my heart and lungs. Dongfang Jingpai said in a mushy manner. Meng Lingtian's face twitched. Finally he said, shut up. If you continue, go back and copy books. Dongfang Jingpai's face turned serious. It was as if he hadn't spoken at all. Meng Lingtian? Sima Yuntian frowned at the Immortal in front of him. The 72 disciples behind him also looked at the Immortal in front of them in shock. Sima Yuntian, we finally meet. Your literary style is amazing. Even I can't compare to you. Meng Lingtian exclaimed. Sima Yuntian smiled and said confidently, Meng Lingtian, you didn't call me back just to say this, right? Of course not. Meng Lingtian shook his head. Back then the founder, Dongfang Bu-Bai, found your ancestor somewhere and asked the Julu Academy to take care of the Sima descendants. At the same time he left you a secret letter from your ancestor. Meng Lingtian said. My ancestor's secret letter? Ah. Sima Yuntian said in disbelief. How could his ancestor know about him? I know you don't believe me and have a grudge against the Julu Academy. However, although the Julu Academy restricted you, they still taught you everything about the Sima family. Furthermore, the founder said that after reading your ancestor's letter, your grudge will disappear. Meng Lingtian said. Aha, my ancestor wrote a letter to me? How do you expect me to believe that? Sima Yuntian said. Your Sima family has always been the sole heir. The founder left a message in the Radiant World. When it's the 49th generation of the Sima family, he can leave it to you. Meng Lingtian said. Meng Lingtian took out a jade box. Looking at the box, Sima Yuntian felt a connection with it. How could this be? This jade box can only be opened with the blood and will of a Sima family disciple. Outsiders can't open it at all. Meng Lingtian laughed. Sima Yuntian frowned. He no longer looked at the jade box but at Meng Lingtian. Since it was left to me by my ancestor, you should have given it to me a long time ago, but you delayed it until now? Are you going to use it to return the terms to me? Sima Yuntian asked solemnly. Meng Lingtian nodded his head in satisfaction. Sima Yuntian, you are indeed worthy of being Julu Academy's #1 mortal sage. Sima Yuntian looked at Meng Lingtian with rapt attention. The world is about to fall into chaos. The Northern Celestial Arcanum sect can also see that a huge storm is about to engulf the entire sealed world. A great calamity is about to befall this world. Meng Lingtian said in a deep voice. Great tribulation? Sima Yuntian narrowed his eyes. Yes, the great calamity. Under the great calamity, the archaic Arcanum sect, the Julu Academy, the archaic sects, the sacred grounds and many other powerful sects will all be annihilated. Meng Lingtian took a deep breath and said. Sima Yuntian was surprised. If my Julu Academy wants to pass through this calamity, we must plan thoroughly. I've thought about it for a long time. The Julu Academy should focus on defending the East Divine Continent. With me in charge of the Julu Academy, I hope that you can represent the Julu Academy and enter the Great Jin Empire. Everything should be done with the Julu Academy first. Meng Lingtian said solemnly. Chapter 981. Ah? Enter the Dajin Empire? You want me to be a spy? Sima Yuntian showed a trace of disdain. Something like that. The Great Jin Empire is rather strange. Although I'm not afraid of it, I'm not willing to destroy it. This is because the stronger the sect, the more likely it is to control the fate of the East Divine Continent. Meng Lingtian said solemnly. I remember that Meng Wenrua is your grandson. Isn't he in the Dajin Empire? Sima Yuntian sneered. Yes, but Meng Wenrua is not comparable to Yan Xuan. Moreover, Meng Wenrua's heart is with the Dajin Empire. Meng Lingtian shook his head. Sima Yuntian sneered and did not say anything else. I will try my best to get you the position of Prime Minister in the Dajin Empire. How about that? Meng Lingtian smiled. Prime Minister? Such a high position. What does that have to do with me? Sima Yuntian sneered. That's the condition. I can show you the jade box. You can tell me if the letter is worth the price after you read it. How about that? Meng Lingtian smiled. Sima Yuntian narrowed his eyes. He took the jade box calmly. Looking at the restriction on it, it was true that this restriction required his blood and will to be activated. He forced out a trace of essence blood and dyed the seal red. At the same time he sent his consciousness into the jade box and it shook violently. Whoosh! The jade box opened. Is this really left behind by my ancestor? Sima Yuntian looked at it in shock. This was because something that required essence blood and will could only be refined by an ancestor of the same bloodline. There was a letter in the jade box. Sima Yuntian took it out. Meng Lingtian looked at the letter curiously, but Sima Yuntian did not show it to him. Sima Yuntian kept the jade box and looked at the letter. The words to Sima Yuntian were written on the cover. This is? My handwriting? My own handwriting? Sima Yuntian's expression changed. Oh. Meng Lingtian looked at it curiously. Sima Yuntian's eyes flickered, but he opened it in the end. At the same time, he cast a spell and formed a green mist around him to prevent others from seeing the contents of the letter. When he opened the letter, Sima Yuntian was shocked. I have a special hobby. No matter what I write, when I write the fourth word, I will leave a mark that no one will notice. But the letter in front of him had it as well? Sima Yuntian frowned as he read. 49th generation? Haha, to be more precise, you should be the 49th reincarnation of my current state. In your generation I should have reincarnated 81 times. Don't doubt it, I am you and you are me. The Sima clan has only one heir in every generation, and when the only heir is born, the elders don't have long to live. This was inevitable. Because, after so many generations, it was actually me who was reincarnating. When my son was born and had enough memories, the father would die, and the power of the soul would accumulate in my son's body. I am a special case because in my first life I put a strange curse on myself. In this life I am a fate usurper. I have divined many things, but it is still not comprehensive enough. I deduce that I had an extremely powerful first life. But I have an even stronger enemy, and I am also waiting for an extremely important person. Actually, my surname is not Sima, and your surname is not Sima either. We just used a fake surname to blend into the masses. According to my calculations, in my 81st life, I will meet the person I am waiting for. I don't know who I am waiting for, but you will know when the time comes. Also, remember, from the first life we did not believe in Sima. I have divined that our first life was surnamed Li Si. I am Li Si and you are Li Si. The contents of the letter were very long, but when he read till here, Sima Yuntian was stunned. Who is Li Si? How did I become Li Si? Chapter 982. North Divine Continent. Not far from the archaic mystery sect, a stream of light flashed across the west. Rumble. Rumbling sounds could be heard as more than 300 draconic horses pulled a group of experts over. One of them was the dignified Kong Mok, and the other was the dean of the Western Confucius Academy, Kong Daoqiu. Kong Mok was clad in golden chainmail, and he looked extremely mighty. On the other hand, Kong Daoqiu was clad in white and exuded a faint aura of righteousness. Although he looked calm, there was a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. Stop! Kong Mok bellowed. The 300 draconic horses suddenly stopped at the peak of a mountain. Kong Mok and Kong Daoqiu landed on a mountain peak. There are still 2 months before it starts. I'll go find Yun Xian first. It's been a long time since we played chess. I'll help you ask about the situation. Kong Daoqiu said lightly. Kong Mok nodded and said, All right, I have some personal matters to attend to. The two separated and Kong Daoqiu headed straight for the archaic mystery sect. Kong Mok and the rest of his men turned their horses around and rode in another direction. 10 days later. Not far from the archaic mystery sect. In a valley, Ninth Rat was lying on a deck chair with a palm leaf fan in his hand. In front of him was a large group of rats that he had just summoned. Although Ninth Rat had just entered the upper emptiness realm, he was extremely sensitive to news due to his fearful nature. As he lay down leisurely, the large group of rats in front of him quickly reported to him what had happened. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Thousands of rats kept reporting to this ancestor of unknown origin what they had seen during this period of time. Ninth Rat fanned himself with his palm leaf fan while pinching the rat's beard. His eyes kept darting around. Wait, you said that a group of monks were guarding a valley outside the Ningxue Palace and killed a large number of your descendants? Ninth Rat suddenly pointed at a large rat and asked. The rat seemed to have some experience and immediately nodded. Monks. The North Divine Continent doesn't produce monks. Could it be the Thousand Buddhas' holy ground? And the Ningxue Palace? The palace master of the condensed jade palace, Ma Daoquan, seems to have a blood feud with the 10,000 Buddhas' holy land? Ren Rat's expression changed. The rat jumped up and down and kept telling the rat about the valley. Ren Rat's eyes gradually came to life. You said that the valley is radiating golden light? Could it be a treasure? That's right, I don't want to participate in that bullshit God creation plan anyway. There are still nearly 2 months left, so I might as well go and take a look. Who knows, I might even be able to steal something while I'm at it. Kiki. Ren Rat jumped up from the recliner. With a wave of his hand, he chased away the group of rats, leaving only the rat that had discovered the monk. After tidying up a bit, Ren Rat said, Let's go. I'll go with you to take a look. 2 hours later. Outside a valley there were 10 bald monks standing outside. They stood guard in all directions, not allowing any living beings to approach. Furthermore, the entire valley was enveloped by a large number of formations, isolating it from the outside world. In a distant mountain forest, Ninth Rat pinched its whiskers as its expression flickered. Sure enough, there is a situation. However, this formation is not a problem for my rat race. When I reach the legendary realm, I can even drill a hole in the sky, let alone this lousy formation. Ninth Rat laughed. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The rat that was leading the way squeaked. Chapter 983. Not bad. This spirit stone is for you. Go. Ninth rat tossed the spirit stone to the little rat and chased it away. The little rat thanked him profusely. Ninth rat glanced at it and dived into the ground, drilling into the valley. Perhaps it was due to its innate talent. Ninth rat drilled into the array without any abnormalities. Ninth rat continued to drill into the depths of the valley. Finally, ninth rat drilled into a bush in the valley and revealed a hole. Ninth rat looked inside. There was a waterfall in the valley and the water was deep and serene. The environment was extremely beautiful. Beside the waterfall was a huge pavilion. There were close to 300 people surrounding the pavilion. In the pavilion, Kong Mok sat on the main seat and a group of subordinates stood behind him. There were soldiers, scholars, and even monks. Sitting beside Kong Mok was a man in a green robe. Ma Daoquan of Ning Shui Palace? Didn't Kong Mok kill Ma Daoquan's son? Don't the two of them have an irreconcilable enmity? Ninth rat looked at the scene in front of him in shock. Ma Daoquan, you've said so much. In short, you've worked hard these past few years. Kong Mok smiled. Many thanks for your majesty's kindness. This subject has been undercover in the North Divine Continent all these years, waiting for your majesty's great cause so that I can respond to your majesty and contribute to your majesty's unification of the world. Ma Daoquan smiled. Ha, you've done well. This emperor is about to unify the world and your Ning Shui Palace has established a foothold in the North Divine Continent. You'll definitely be able to help this emperor. You'll be the main contributor to the conquest of the North Divine Continent. Kong Mok laughed. Many thanks, your majesty. Ma Daoquan smiled. This time many heroes have gathered here. This emperor needs to subdue a group of true heroes. Do you have any information on them? Kong Mok asked solemnly. Time is tight so I can't collect much. Moreover, many heroes are still on the way. Ma Daoquan frowned. No matter, you don't need to collect. This emperor brought over 300 subjects here. Naturally, this emperor is not here for sightseeing. What you need to do now is to help this emperor win the competition and subdue the Celestial Arcanum sect. This is the most important task. Kong Mok said solemnly. Yes. Ma Daoquan. In the distance, ninth rat, who was peeking out from the bushes, opened its mouth in shock. Ma Daoquan is a chess piece sent by Kong Mok to the Northern Divine Continent? Not an enemy? Ren Rat looked at this scene in surprise. Who's there? Kong Mok's eyes narrowed, and he reached out to grab Huang Xiaolong. A huge golden claw appeared in the void and smashed into where ninth rat was. Ah! Ninth rat screamed miserably and went underground. Boom! A huge crater appeared on the ground. There was also a pool of blood. However, the ninth rat was nowhere to be seen. A group of experts immediately gathered around. Earth escape. The faces of the cultivators darkened. Earth escape was not something that all Xiuzhi could do. Although Kong Mok was strong, he was not good at earth escape. Amateus Buddha. A monk behind Kong Mok shouted. Prophet Buddha, you have collected the information of heaven and earth. Where did that thief escape to? Kong Mok shouted. Your Majesty, he went east and he escaped very quickly. Just now your Majesty's claw injured him. I believe that his cultivation is not something to be afraid of. Your Majesty does not need to worry. This subject will go and handle this matter for your Majesty. Prophet Buddha said. En? Kong Mok nodded. Prophet Buddha flicked his kasaya and rushed to the sky, flying towards the east. Chapter 984. 3 days later. Somewhere in the forest. Boom. A large number of rocks were sent flying as Prophet Buddha stepped on ninth rat's shoulder with a black Buddhist commandment blade in his hand. Cough cough, don't do it. I am the temple master of the divine sect Holy Land. Ninth rat immediately begged for mercy. Prophet Buddha frowned slightly. You are ninth rat? Prophet Buddha asked in surprise. Letting go of ninth rat, Prophet Buddha said in a deep voice, Temple Master Ninth, you have good means. Your unique skill in digging holes is unparalleled in the world. There were a few times when I almost lost you with my heaven and earth scavenger. Ninth rat covered his thigh where blood was flowing out and quickly treated it. Damn it, if it weren't for Kong Mok, that son of a bitch, how could you find me? Ninth rat was depressed. Prophet Buddha naturally didn't know what ninth rat was thinking, but he was in a difficult situation. If he didn't know ninth rat, he could just kill him and report back. But now, he had to consider the divine sect Holy Land. Prophet Buddha's eyes turned and he suddenly smiled. Ninth rat? What do you think of my 1000 Buddha Holy Land? 1000 Buddha Holy Land? What's wrong? Isn't it the same as the divine sect Holy Land? Ninth Rat endured the pain and frowned. Yes, it's the same. I remember that you just joined the divine sect Holy Land not long ago. The temple masters of the divine sect Holy Land are free to come and go. I see that you have a deep affinity with Buddhism and fate with my Thousand Buddha Holy Land. Prophet Buddha said with a smile. Me? Fate with Buddhism? Ninth Rat was surprised. At the same time, a strange thought appeared in his mind. Fate my ass. I have dug dozens of Buddha's graves. Yes, why don't you join my Thousand Buddha Holy Land? I can guarantee that the Holy Lord will agree to let you enjoy the Buddha karmic rank. Prophet Buddha said with a smile. What kind of joke is this? Go to your Thousand Buddha Holy Land and be a bachelor? I still want to build a large harem. Ninth Rat immediately refused. Fellow Taoist Ninth, you are the leader of all evil. Prophet Buddha advised. Ninth Rat. Holding his injured balls, Hydra Rat wished he could slap the Prophet Buddha who was afraid of death. If you don't join my 10,000 Buddha's holy ground, I won't be able to answer to the great Buddha Emperor. It would be a great pity if fellow Taoist Ren were to perish here in this wilderness. In fact, the great Buddha Emperor quite admires your ability to escape through the earth. The Prophet Buddha said slowly. This was a threat to Ninth Rat. If they didn't submit to the 10,000 Buddha's holy ground, they would die. Ren Rat's face twitched and he shouted, I don't want to be a monk. If I join the great Buddha imperial dynasty, can I marry and have children? Haha, fellow Taoist Ren, you are indeed an outstanding person. Let's go, I will bring you to meet His Majesty. The Prophet Buddha immediately said with satisfaction. Wait a moment. My injuries are too severe. I need to be treated immediately. If there are any sequelae, it would be terrible. Ninth Rat tried to delay. All right. Prophet Buddha waited for Ninth Rat to heal. Half a day later. While Ninth Rat was recuperating, he was also trying to get close to Prophet Buddha. In the blink of an eye, the two of them were talking about everything. Is it done? Prophet Buddha asked with a frown. Lead the way. Ren Rat shouted. Ah, good. Prophet Buddha flew up and led the way for Ninth Rat. Boom. A loud sound came from underground. Ninth Rat dug a hole and escaped again. Prophet Buddha was stunned. Bastard, you dare to lie to me? Prophet Buddha shouted angrily. Deep underground, Ninth Rat was digging a hole and escaping while cursing, Lie to your grandmother. You almost killed me and now you want me to submit? Wait until I recover, I will definitely teach you a lesson. I have never suffered such a great loss before. Damn it, I will pay you back 10 times. Ninth Rat was still digging a hole in the ground in pain. Chapter 985. Naibo Studio Celestial Arcanum Sect, Misty Sea Fairy Palace. Yen Chuan, Lu Jin, and Bai Ditian were staying in the side halls of the Fairy Palace. In one of the halls, Yen Chuan was receiving a special guest. A guest who was looking for him. Dong Fong Pai. Yen Chuan did not summon Lu Jin and Bai Ditian. Instead, he looked at the chubby Dong Fong Pai with amusement. The two of them were drinking tea. This tea tastes terrible. However, it contains a lot of yuan qi. Dong Fong Pai frowned as he looked at the tea. Everyone likes it. However, I am curious. How did you find me? Yen Chuan asked curiously. Elder Meng Mengling Tian brought me and Sima Yun Tian here. We were at the main hall of the Celestial Arcanum sect when we found out that you were here. The others were playing chess with sect leader Yun and were talking nonsense. I was bored and decided to look for you. Dong Fong Pai said. Oh, Mengling Tian, Sima Yun Tian? Why are they here? Yen Chuan frowned. This has something to do with you. Dong Fong Pai laughed. Don't tell me you're helping Mengling Tian to persuade him? Yen Chuan took a sip of tea and laughed. Ah, you can tell? Even if you can, I am just a scout. You can decide for yourself if you are willing. Dong Fong Pai laughed. Oh, it's like this. Some time ago, Mengling Tian persuaded Sima Yun Tian to enter your great Zhen. Of course, Elder Meng has his own motives. He hopes that Sima Yun Tian can enter your great Zhen and take care of the Julu Academy. It seems like there is going to be a great calamity. Dong Fong Pai did not hide anything from Yen Chuan. Great calamity? Yen Chuan's expression changed. What do you think? Dong Fong Pai asked. Ah, Sima Yun Tian entering the Great Jin Empire? No matter what the reason is, I can't wait. Yen Chuan laughed. Aren't you worried about Sima Yun Tian's motive for coming here? Dong Fong Pai asked. This is not what I should be worried about. On the contrary, this should be what Meng Lingtian should be worried about. Yin Chuan smiled. Dongfang Jingpai was even more confused. You're not worried? That's exactly what I want. Why should I be worried? Meng Lingtian also said that he would do his best to cooperate with Sima Yuntian so that he could become the Prime Minister of Dezhen as soon as possible. Prime Minister? Dongfang Jingpai said. Prime Minister? According to the rules and regulations of the Great Jin Empire, one must have great achievements to become the Prime Minister. If that's the case, what's wrong with giving him the position of Prime Minister? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Dongfang Jingpai. Why aren't you worried at all? Dongfang Jingpai didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Originally he thought that Yin Chuan would use all kinds of words to push and shove, but why did it seem like he was about to snatch it? Even if Sima Yuntian didn't come to me, I would have gone to him. Our Great Jin Empire is thirsty for talents. Now that there's a virtuous paragon willing to accept the position, how could I reject him? Yin Chuan smiled. All right. Anyway, I've done what I came to do. All right, I heard Sima Yuntian mention that he wants to change his name. To enter the Great Jin Empire, he wants to change his name along with his surname. How strange. Dongfang Jingpai drank a mouthful of water and said, Change his name? Yin Chuan asked curiously. Change it to Li Si. I don't know anything else. Dongfang Jingpai shook his head. Li Si? This name? Yin Chuan suddenly frowned and pondered. Chapter 986. Yin Chuan closed his eyes as if he was trying to capture that fleeting feeling. What's wrong? Dongfang Jingpai asked. Nothing. I just feel that the name sounds familiar. But I've never heard of it before. Yin Chuan smiled bitterly. Oh. Dongfang Jingpai did not think much of it. Oh right. Dongfang Jingpai's eyes lit up. Yeah. Why don't I join Great Jin? Dongfang Jingpai's eyes lit up. You. Yin Chuan was surprised. Yes, of course. Based on our relationship, don't work for me. It's best if you don't do anything. Of course I won't join you. I'll be a junior if I join you. Dongfang Jingpai exclaimed. Yin Chuan. Don't do anything and still get a salary in Providence? Don't even worship the emperor? Do you want to support the emperor? Really? Really? Dongfang Jingpai asked excitedly. Yin Chuan smiled bitterly. All right, I'll create a new department for you. Don't do anything. You'll get a salary in Providence. But it won't be much. Haha, that's good. Don't worry. If there's anything I can solve, just let me know and I'll do it for you. Dongfang Jingpai said excitedly. All right. Yin Chuan nodded. All right, what's this department called? Dongfang Jingpai asked shamelessly. Let's call it the Special Affairs Department. You'll be the head of the Special Affairs Department. Yin Chuan smiled. All right, that's interesting. All right, can I recruit subordinates? Dongfang Jingpai asked excitedly. Sure. You can decide for yourself. Just don't recruit too many. Yin Chuan smiled bitterly. Of course, Yin Chuan did not care much about the Special Affairs Department. Dongfang Jingpai had helped him a lot in the past. He would treat it as giving Dongfang Jingpai some pocket money to return the favor. Anyway, it wouldn't cost him much spiritual stones or providence. All right. I'm the head of the Special Affairs Department of the Great Jin Empire. Is there anything you need me to help you settle? Dongfang Jingpai said smugly. No. Yin Chuan said directly. Think about it. This is possible. Think about anything. Dongfang Jingpai wanted to continue that sense of accomplishment. Well, I really don't. Whatever you want to do, I'll leave it up to you. Yin Chuan smiled bitterly. Dongfang Jingpai. No matter what, from today onwards, Dezhen had another department, the Special Affairs Division. A department that was looking for trouble. Tianji sect, south of the Misty Sea, in a valley with dense elemental energy of heaven and earth. There were some large halls in the valley. Kong Mok was looking at the information his subordinates had gathered from all over the place. Blood Seal sect, True Self sect? Kong Mok looked at the information. Not far from Kong Mok, the Prophet Buddha felt bitter. Prophet? You're back? Kong Mok looked at Prophet Buddha and asked. Your Majesty, I'm incompetent. I let ninth rat escape. Prophet Buddha said bitterly. Ran away. If he ran away, then so be it. He's just a scoundrel. Kong Mok consoled. After all, the Prophet Buddha was one of Kong Mok's more important people. Thank you, Your Majesty. Prophet Buddha smiled bitterly. Your Majesty. An official from outside the hall entered. What's wrong? Kong Mok asked curiously. Just now, Palace Lord Ma Daoquan sent a letter. As he has to cooperate with your majesty, he can't come. The official handed over a letter. Chapter 987. Kong Mok read the letter. After a while, Kong Mok's pupils constricted. Yin Chuan brat. Kong Mok slammed the letter on the table. Pa. Kong Mok's eyes flashed with anger. Your Majesty, what's wrong? Prophet Buddha asked. Kong Mok handed over the letter. Prophet Buddha quickly skimmed through it. This. Yin Chuan, he's shameless enough to take a shortcut to the fairy palace? Prophet Buddha said in a low voice. There are two arbitrators in this selection, the archaic Arcanum sect master and the fairy. Yin Chuan is shameless enough to try to win the fairy's favor? Taking this shortcut? Kong Mok said coldly. Your Majesty, what are your plans? My plans? I want Yin Chuan dead. Kong Mok said coldly. Your Majesty is wise, this subject also thinks so. This Yin Chuan is growing too fast, he must be eliminated as soon as possible, otherwise he will become a huge threat. Even? Prophet Buddha said with a frown. Even what? Kong Mok said in a low voice. Your Majesty, do you still remember Kong Susu? Yin Chuan's mother, the woman who competed with you in the past? Prophet Buddha said. Kong Susu? So what? Kong Mok said in a low voice. Your Majesty, please forgive this subject's disrespect. The Kong family supports your Majesty because of Kong Susu's defeat. However, that Yin Chuan is Kong Susu's flesh and blood, half of his blood is from the Kong family. Your Majesty, this subject is worried that if Yin Chuan's performance is too outstanding, will the Kong family's support for your Majesty waver? Prophet Buddha said in a low voice. Kong Mok's mind buzzed. Then his eyes turned red. Kong Mok smashed the table beside him into pieces. Yin Chuan must die as soon as possible. Kong Mok said coldly. Your Majesty, once Yin Chuan convinces Zhao Feng, and I'm talking about once the archaic Arcanum sect executes the god-making plan on Yin Chuan, it will be difficult for your Majesty to kill him. At that time the Kong clan won't let you take action. Prophet Buddha said in a low voice. Kong Mok's breathing quickened. Get ready. Follow me immediately to kill Yin Chuan. Kong Imoku said coldly. Yes. The Prophet Buddha replied. Fairy palace? Yin Chuan once again met with the heavenly maiden alone. They sipped tea and listened to Yin Chuan reminisce. These days, although the heavenly maiden couldn't see, her expression was warped by Yin Chuan's moving stories. Yin Chuan, your story is truly moving. Unfortunately, I am not Zhenro. Zhao Feng shook his head and advised. Zhao Feng was worried that he would play the role of Zhenro, so he changed the topic and told Yin Chuan to stop talking about his longing for Zhenro. Yin Chuan looked at Zhao Feng and smiled bitterly. Although I know you don't have any memories of Zhenro, I still want to tell you. Do you know why? Zhao Feng frowned. Because my intuition tells me that you are Zhenro. Yin Chuan said with certainty. Yendi. Zhao Feng was a little angry. Yin Chuan immediately interrupted. Listen to me first. I won't force you to believe me, but this is my intuition. Please don't deny it. After saying so much, I actually have something I want to do. What is it? Zhao Feng frowned. Whether my intuition is wrong or not, it can be verified. The world branch knows best whether we were husband and wife in our previous lives. If you really want to refute my idea, let the world branch judge it. It has recorded everything in the past. I think you will use it. As long as it can verify whether we were husband and wife in our previous lives, I, Yin Chuan, will immediately turn around and leave. How about it? Yin Chuan said with a firm gaze. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.